What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Raven, and we're here today. This is going to be kind of a special one, really, because it will be casual conversation. It will be with our shield maidens, wherever they may be. In fact, that's what it's largely going to be about. Is our the tribe of the Greyhorn Pagans has launched a shield maidens group, which is going to be solely for the ladies. So. I've already sent out the invite link to those who want to attend and talk about it. And in the meantime, while we're waiting, Joe, how is everything going? I was about to bring you up, man. how are things? Good to see you, by the way. Hope everything's going well. By the way, speaking of which, and I do need to add this link, so let me just grab it real quick. Just gonna. Oh my god, my script text here is long as hell. All right, copying and pasting this. I'm going to put this in the description. Dano, what's going on? Rocking that Phillies avatar too. Before I do anything else, wanted to go ahead and throw this link out. There we go, right here. Wanted to do this again because we are actually dedicating this live stream to Joe's mom, who just passed away a couple days ago. Was it? I think it was like maybe a couple days ago. And yeah, I'm going to have Joe on real quick. I'm going to let me do this over in Gilded really fast. Boom, direct messages. Here we go. Boom. Linky. Here we go. There you are. Sent on Gilded. But anyway, right now, funeral expenses are going to be kind of a thing. And every little bit that you can give helps. And what I wanted to say was, if you're thinking about getting a private reading for yourself or for someone else, skip that. Donate that money over at the GoFundMe link. And, you know, one of the things that most people ask is, well, what difference can I make? Well, this makes a world of difference today. You can do that today. So here we go. Joe is coming on. Joe, what's going on, man?
Oh, boy. So, yeah, Mom passed on the 2nd. And quite frankly, I haven't had the time to, on an emotional level, like, handle that. Because I'm doing I'm doing all the administrative stuff you got to do, all the post-death, the management of remains, the changing bills, house, all the stuff that you have to do that has to get done immediately, because we don't live in a society anymore where you can take 30 days to grieve and then do it. Right. So the thing is that my mother, I think I mentioned her one of the times I was on the podcast previously.
Tuesday night, as a matter of fact.
Well, right, but I mentioned that she was gamer, like you and I are, back in the old school. And so when I talk about being second generation gamer, right? Yeah, my dad played. My mom was the DM. Right?
Oh, wow.
All my dirtiest tricks I learned from her. Just as an example, because we're talking back in the Wild West days when you could do what you want and people didn't accuse you of things for it. My mom was a big fan of showing people exactly what's going to happen and then letting them walk and do it like idiots. So, there was a trap she had that was a wall with a button on it. The button said "press for 1 gold coin." Now, mind you, you got the gold coin. It was a ton, and it fell from the ceiling, but it was a gold coin.
You got a gold coin.
My mom made a trap that I refer to as the Orcish Centrifuge, which, since this is tea with Wolfgar, you will appreciate. It's a room, you enter it, there's a group of orcs sitting in the center who appear to be having tea at a fine setting. And they see you, they stand up, they start to fight, right?
Right.
And then, like, a round or two in, you hear, "Strap in," on like a voiceover, and the
Oh
orcs
shit.
disengage, strap themselves to the wall. They're all laughing, right? And if you don't strap yourself in quickly enough, and if you don't succeed on various checks, the room begins to spin, which
Oh
means
my
if you're not strapped in, you get flung around and take damage, right?
Oh
But
no.
even if you're strapped in, if you don't succeed on those certain checks, you come out dizzy and throwing up. The tea that the orcs are drinking is supposed to is a stabilizer for your stomach, so you can get spun.
Oh,
So the orcs are fine. My
that
mother
is
was
amazing.
insidious. It was great.
Your
And
mother
she
was the ultimate shield maiden in RPGs. Let me tell you.
right, she was a powerful, vigorous woman, deep in the craft. Right, um, one of those people who was probably closer to crone from a very young age than you'd think, because people are really addicted to that idea that it's like age bracketed. You hit 60 and then you're a crone. And it's like, no, you can be wise beyond your years. It's not a one to
True.
one. And then my mom fought for so long, and when I say fought for so long, what does that mean? Um, she developed lymphedema, right?
Right.
And lived with it for a while before we knew what was wrong, right?
Yeah.
And then she turned septic in the hospital while they were helping her fight it. Okay, literally the back of one of her calves fell off. Okay, I
Oh.
want you to imagine. My mother said she could smell her own putrefaction.
Oh.
Okay,
Ouch.
so they had to they had to amputate one leg. And then the way of it is, if you lose one limb, generally within 5 years, you lose the other.
Mm.
Right? So she became a double amputee. The stresses of all that activated a genetic predisposition with age to diabetes. Right?
Oh.
So we're managing diabetes, we're managing that, and then as she aged, the problems accumulate. COPD, seasonal pneumonia. The pneumonia caused her lungs to fill with fluid, so she started having lung collapse and heart problems, because she already had heart problems, but now they were exacerbated, right?
Right.
So, you know, I was taking care of my mom unpaid. We had actually been told you couldn't get paid for it for a while before it's like, oh yeah, no, the children can get paid, just not spouses. It's like, that's an important difference there, jerk.
Yeah.
because because when you're even if you're part time, when you're caregiving for someone as a full time job, right? That means everything else goes sort of into standby. And I was in
Yep.
college when this all went down, right?
Right.
Um, but then very quickly, one after the other, my father died. Right? My mom and I
Mm-hmm.
were pretty chill for about 2 years. And then my mom went in for digoxin poisoning because she had uh, mismanaged her pills. Because when we moved in, mom and I divided up. What tasks do you want to do? You have to keep your elderly person feeling in charge and involved, right?
Right.
So it was like mom was like, "Well, I want to manage pills." I'm like, "Fine, I don't want to have to memorize your pills. Your pills are difficult because I don't want to screw that up, right?"
Yeah. Yeah.
But it never occurred to us that the Alzheimer's sneaks up on you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And my mom had that onset sundowners condition, right? Because we should have expected it. My grandfather had dementia, right?
Right.
But basically, she mismanaged her pills. It led to a digoxin overdose, uh, and that was bad, right?
Yeah.
Um, we also found out, quite by accident, because I happened to look into it, that cigarettes have digoxin, right? Now,
Really.
yeah. Now, see, the thing is that my mom had been smoking for years, and she had
Mm-hmm.
tried to quit multiple times. She could never quit when my father was alive because living with him was a pain, right? But with me, she made a go of it. And heck with it, and it's like, okay, 60, 70-year-old woman. What am I going to do? I can't force her to behave, right?
Right.
As
Mm-hmm.
soon as I knew that there was digoxin in the cigarettes, I'm like, Mom, I'm not going to let you keep taking the drug that they just took you off of because it just near killed you. You're stopping.
Right.
And she's like, what do you mean? It's like, your caregivers are not bringing you in cigarettes. I'm not bringing you in any cigarettes. We're doing the thing. You're going cold turkey. And let me tell you, she was not happy with me.
Ooh.
In her better moment, she understood why, right?
Right.
But in the bad moment, she was absolutely livid.
Oh yeah,
Right.
definitely.
But still, for the better part of a year, right? No cigarettes, right? She had, if not kicked the habit, she was at least fighting it really hard, right? And like I said, seasonal pneumonia. So 3 times in 3 years, she had pneumonia, right?
Oof.
She had warfarin interactions that caused her to have a nosebleed, right?
Yeah.
You ain't
Mm-hmm.
lived. To be fair, as a young man taking care of your mother, you haven't lived until you've cleaned up your mother's mess, right? Until you've had to manage an accident, right? And until you've walked into the room and found your mother laying in a pool of her own sticky blood,
Ooh.
right?
Right.
And time and again, my mom bounced back, right? She fought, beat the odds, bounced back over and over again, and continued to each time she'd be a little less, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, is that when she passed this time, it was really sad and it was frankly inconvenient, right? But it
Right.
wasn't. It never felt as though it was, for lack of better language, undeserved. She had fought for 2 decades against her ill health. She was tired,
Yeah.
you know? And that's, we were talking about odd permutations of paganism. If anyone, even though my mom is a Wiccan and probably went to Summerland, if anyone deserves to go to Valhalla, it's my mother. Because not all battles have to be
Yeah.
blood and sword, you know?
Right. Yeah.
She fought infirmity for 20 years. That's worthy of Thor. He couldn't beat death, but he could at least stave it a while.
Yeah. And she really did. She, like, from all that you told me, even just off camera, like, she was a fucking warrior, son.
Oh
That,
yeah, and
jeez.
and that's the thing, is they finally call me in. They say she's got a secondary infection. It's probably the time,
Right.
right? And it was not easy, but I agreed because I had to think in that objective space,
Yeah.
that you gotta do what's necessary. So they took her off the paralytic. Me and my friend were sitting in the intensive care, um, and while they waited for the paralytic to pass, we talked about mom. We sat with her. Once the paralytic was off, they removed the intubation tube, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I was holding her hand. I literally held her hand until the moment they told me her heart stopped beating. So I felt her go. Right.
Whoa.
What's more?
That's pretty surreal.
Oh, what's more? I actually think she went before that. I was I was sitting on this little couch that they've got, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my legs were killing me because I have edema, right? Which is
Right.
not comfortable. So I had my
No,
legs
definitely
up,
not.
and I'm basically dozing, not because I don't care about what the goings on, but because I've been up for 72 hours off and on at this point,
Yeah, I was gonna
right?
say 3 days straight. Yeah.
Right. And at one point, as I'm kind of in that drowsy in between place, I had like this twitch, like your arms go, "Meh," right?
Yeah.
No reason, couldn't figure out why. Woke me up from a dead nothing, right? And I would suspect that was my mom on her way out, being like, "Hey kid, it's time,"
Yeah.
you know, with that magical thinking, because there's no proof one way or the other, right?
Right.
Not on
Yeah.
not on any scientific level.
Well, tell me
Um,
this much. How is the GoFundMe going?
oh, the GoFundMe is already funded,
Really?
but yeah, and that's actually what I was originally going to get at, is that I don't think my mother understood how loved she was, or how many people accepted her as like the gamer mom and den mother,
Yeah.
right? Um, because she didn't care about the body. That's just a shell. Everything that was her has gone wherever it's supposed to go, right? So it's just going to be cremated. Not cheapest cremation. We want one that's not going to have hidden fees and BS, but cremated nonetheless,
Yeah.
right? And the thing is that I've got to pay all these bills and manage the household. I don't have the funds to uh, pay for the cremation.
Yeah,
So
that was a point I was going to bring up was anything. I mean, there are still, even after that, there's still more hard times to. We're talking like dusty
right,
roads, hard times to consider, and that's why I was going to
right,
add that anything beyond the funeral expenses is going to go toward bills and all
e-
the like aftercare,
e-
financial
e-
aftercare that has to be done.
exactly. And that's the thing is I I was gonna shop around to people with my PayPal. Go, hey man, I got a PayPal. Send me your thing. And Victor Gorchev, friend of the podcast here, from the Gilded,
Definitely. Yep.
was like, hey man, do a GoFundMe. And I was like, I don't know, I've never done one of those. But I was like, beggars can't be choosers. Desperation makes strange bedfellows. Sure, I tried it, and everybody went, yeah, done. Boom, 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 boom. And in very short order, the $1,000 base was there,
Right.
right? And I was like, well, there were several other people who said they wanted to donate, but they just couldn't right now,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Me being one
So
of them.
yeah, so I've left the GoFundMe running, and I'm going to give people who wanted to contribute as their means of paying their respects to get an opportunity to do so before I close them. And yeah, any excess goes to bills, management, potentially moving because my landlady is a horrible person who could throw me out of my own house. I'd have to sell it, but you know, there's all the fun of moving.
Yeah.
um,
And all that I know this is like it's a petty point, but at the same time, when you're talking to tabletop gamers, this means a lot. There's what 30 years plus of material that you have, and I've seen your bookshelves and I envy all of them. And then you've got file cabinets and all that stuff, all those memories from
no,
that material
no,
that has to be moved.
no, bruh, 50.
50, holy shit.
Yeah,
Wow.
my AD&D books. The reason I bought the re-release, the really shiny, nice re-release, is because
Yeah.
my others are 82 originals.
Oh, wow. Holy
Okay,
shit.
yeah. I mean they are loved. They obviously were working copies, right? But they're old enough that it's like I got to be gentle with them,
Yeah.
right? The very idea of getting rid of them, even if they aren't worth a lot, even if I could get a lot on eBay or what have you, just seems just unwholesome, lacking
It's
in respect.
unthinkable. Yeah.
Yeah, I have often lamented that like when I pass, and I'm now the last McKeever in my family, right?
Hmm.
Uh, because any other McKeevers out there that I'm related to, I'm not in contact with, or they wouldn't necessarily have the same perspective on the material. I've often said it's like I wish I could donate this stuff to a library. I wish it could be preserved somewhere.
Why couldn't you?
Well, think of the age we live in, man. Libraries are a dying breed. I I deeply fear that in my lifetime, either libraries will be entirely digital and no one goes to them, right? Or
Yeah,
just
I mean,
they'll look at the material and go, well, it's game books. Who cares about D&D and D&D? It's like,
yeah, I mean, I do have Hoopla, so my library is digital, but I also like I have two physical libraries close to me that I've gone to and hung out in, and of course just spent time poring over the books because well they're right there, and also
right,
they're offering services like checking out movies, which I never thought would be a thing. I know when I was a kid, they would loan out CDs and music, but and that was kind of a new one on me because when I was younger. still, all they had were books. And I was that kid that got hooked into the Hardy Boys like super early. And we're talking like fourth, fifth grade. So I was
Well,
reading that. And then the CDs started coming in. And now there are movies. And I'm like, that blows my mind because I never thought that a library would end up becoming a rent, like a movie rental house.
well, see, I'm a brat. Let's start there. But when I was in college, everybody did the same thing. They buy their books for the year, right? Then
Right.
they'd resell them, they'd get their money back, and then they'd buy their new books. I was on a
Hmm.
Pell Grant. I had the advantage there that I didn't have to, and
Oh, that.
a lot of my bills were handled because I lived with my folks rather than live on campus like a dude, right?
Hmm.
So when people talk about, well, I want to have a library one day, how you get a library is you keep your books,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So since this is a occultism paganism podcast, right? I mean, it's generally whatever you want to talk about, but it's mostly
True.
that.
Yeah.
Um, I kept all of my philosophy texts from college, right? Which
Right.
include things like the Book of Law, right? I've got my mom's entire library of paganistic texts, right? I've
Right.
got I've got things like On Demonology from Forgotten Books, right? I've
Hmm.
got a Book of Shadows. I've got a Malleus Maleficarum, right? And
Wow, you
then
actually have that. Oh,
why
I
would
didn't think that was still available in physical form
oh
anymore.
ForgottenBooks.com? You haven't heard of it? They do print on demand
Oh, no
from
shit.
the
Okay.
from the original
ForgottenBooks.com. I will check that out.
plates. Yeah,
Nice.
my On Demonology is very hard to read. um, but the reason I mention is because if you dig deeper into said library, right, there are some old books. I have Foxfire books from the 1970s. I have a copy of Paracelsus.
Wow.
Okay, I have things in this house that you either can't replace, right, or if you could replace them, I have copies of them they don't make anymore.
Hey, speaking of books, a package just arrived for me. I recognize the address, and you'll see it's in
Is
the
it?
box right behind me.
I gotta ask. Is it game books?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
So
because
guess what?
I'm waiting for mine.
So guess what? You guys, all of you viewing, and all of you who've joined me, including Stein, who just joined. What's up?
What's up?
You're gonna get to see me unbox this this. I thought like the tracking on it told me this was gonna be here Tuesday. It arrived today. And this shipped out on the 3rd, so it only took 2 days to get here.
That's mighty fast.
Yeah, it's like Troll Lord Games. They get it. I mean, you choose the cheapest shipping option, which is 2 to 4 days. They get it to you in 2. It's crazy. Yeah, there we go. All right, let's see what I got here. Like being a kid at Christmas. There we go, and open says me. Oh, they bubble wrap the hell out of this thing.
Hey, you gotta do it slow, man. You gotta do it slow. Like, come on, tease us. Like, don't just.
Yeah, turn on that sexy music. Oh,
Right, put on some Barry White and just.
let's
Arcanus.
get it on. Let's get it on.
And this is Codex Geographica Volume 1, The Blessed Lands. So that's this thing. I have actually already read this because I have it in PDF too. So this is from a Kickstarter. But oh boy. This is the one I've been waiting for.
Oh, that's big.
Nice.
Oh yeah. Runic edition, baby.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, and here's the thing, it's front and back. So oh my
Oh,
oh wow.
dude, that's a big book, though.
Of this? No, this is about like the way they talked about, or the way Pedro was telling me about it on Twitter. he told me how many pages it was. I was like, Jesus, that's going to be as thick as Dungeon Crawl Classics. They must have used a lighter weight paper because it's not quite as thick, but it's still the same. It's like, do you remember, what was it, Crown of the Oathbreaker and Starship Warden? I took pictures of those side by side. And even though Crown of the Oathbreaker has 900 some odd pages, Starship Warden only has like 600. They were still exactly the same. I think they were like maybe an inch and a half, 2 inches thick. This, oh my God, this is beautiful. And this is for 5th edition D&D. This is a, like, sort of a Roman setting. And, oh my goodness, look at the artwork. You're not finding this in most modern D&D adventures anymore.
That looks great.
It is. Oh, wow. And talk about tables, regional weapons and armor, equipment, wealth, coinage. I mean, the hinterlands is in here. The horse lords of the hinterlands, those that operate the gladiatorial pits of Sicarius, and those that engage in the deadly art of political maneuverings in the city of Censure, train with a wide variety of weapons. Look at the armor. Holy
Dude.
shit.
That's nice.
That is badass. And I mean, and ribbon bookmark in there.
Nice.
Oh yeah. Now I just gotta find a place for these in my cabinet.
Oh, that is always the problem. Let me ask you a weird question here, Wolfgar. When's your next podcast or your next get together, or is it whenever you feel like it?
Actually, I talked to my boss a few days ago, and we were just yakking and shooting the breeze about getting me coded in. And of course, I had to put in an application for a position, which I got flat denied on again. I was like, and get this, okay? So I've been working in a pharmacy. I moved to the other side of the business. I'm still licensed. So I have experience. All that would be required of me in this position that I applied for is when they call for help, I go back there and just fill prescriptions until they get their lines under control, and then I go back out on the floor. That is it. There's nothing more. So I had to apply for that position. I applied, and I got an email like less than 24 hours later that said, we'll be looking at more qualified candidates. I went,
compared to
Okay.
what?
I mean, the level. I was like, I can't believe I'm still working for this company. Holy crap.
Well,
And I got like, I was talking to the boss about it, and he said, he was showing me like how the schedule was going to fall. And he's like, I typically try to give everybody like a day in the weekend off, and then, a day in the week off so you can still get your stuff done. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. He's like, I'm kind of thinking you for Saturdays. And I'm like, I play test a game on Saturdays. I do live streams on Saturdays. That's perfect. He goes, great. Saturdays are yours. I'm like, yes.
Well,
fortunately though, the only kind of weird thing is there are some days where I'm going to have to be there so early that I won't have time to do a reading. So I'll have to do readings like if I have to work super early the next day, I'm going to have to do a reading for both days. So now the format's going to change a little, and how often I post is going to change. The only thing, how can I put it? The only consistent is going to be the live stream, which I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure that the people, people watching will understand. So the world will understand, definitely.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
they will.
the reason I ask is because on the 9th, which is Wednesday, according to UPS, my OSC boxes should arrive.
Oh my goodness! Oh yeah, I got OSE in PDF. I even got the new Hyperborea in PDF.
Well, here's the thing. Back when I sold the house, Mom and I had some what we loosely will term fun money, right?
Right.
And that's part of the sorrow here of my mom's passing. My mom and I, between the two of us, spent $2,000 on miniatures.
Woo!
Yeah.
Shit!
When people talk about, I have a stack of stuff to paint, it's like, no, I have a stack of stuff to paint.
Son,
but
Jesus.
you've got a horde to paint.
but also, well, we also bought storage and paint and all kinds of tools and whatnot, you know.
Yeah,
But I also,
just miniatures, but goddamn, son,
right, but
you got a fucking horde.
but because I had a little bit lying around, and we didn't know how soon Mother was going to pass, right? There were a couple of Kickstarters that I immediately backed because these were once in a lifetime situations I would never see again,
Yeah,
right?
that's kind of the
So,
problem with Kickstarter is a lot of it is just it's once in a lifetime. If you and like
well,
there's one right now, I would love to back it, but number one, it's a bit on the expensive side, and number two, it's written by Tracy and Laura Hickman, who are well, Tracy is one half of the Dragonlance writers. He's one half of the team next to Margaret Weiss, and his Kickstarter, Yano just in fact showed it to me yesterday, and hang on, I'm going to grab some tea, but I'm still going to be talking. But at the same time, he was showing me this, and I was like, "Oh my god, that looks amazing!" But again, it's like, you know, can I really afford to put that much on a credit card right now? And the answer was no. I kind of want to stop because I've got so many Kickstarters. I've got several Kickstarters I backed. That was the second one that just arrived. So that was a Kickstarter fulfillment there. I'm waiting for the Dark Tower, which I found out I'm getting. I thought I just backed the Dungeon Crawl Classics version. Nope, I backed the 5e version too. So I'm getting
well,
both.
that's the thing. You know, I'm talking about my lack of funds and how I've got to do this GoFundMe and everything, and it sounds really
Yeah.
awful to be like, oh, and I'm also getting a bunch of stuff. But the thing is that stuff was paid for 2 years previous,
Yeah, yeah, and
right?
that's kind of
And
that's the only real issue with Kickstarters is they're not some of them aren't coming like in a couple months. I mean, some do, like
right,
Arcanus and the Doom that came to Astrius came in a few months. But you got to understand what most people don't know, and what most people don't understand, especially with tabletop RPG or even board game RPG type Kickstarters, is uh, unless you're Mark Ryan Hagen, who already has the thing written, already has the thing laid out, already has it ready to go. There's still time to print, and the higher quality of the print, like the one you just saw, the more time it takes, because this is not print on demand. Print on demand takes a few days and then another couple days to ship or something like that.
well,
Typically, a turnaround time on that, especially from Lulu, is about maybe 2 weeks, close to it.
well, well, that's the thing. Is the big thing that I backed? Where I went, this is the big thing I'm going to get. Is a friend of mine and his husband have the Darkest Dungeon board game, or not the Darkest Dungeon, the Dark Souls board game,
Right.
right? And it's great, but it was also done on Kickstarter. It's also very hard to get now. It's also super expensive, right? So when I saw they were doing a Darkest Dungeon board game, I'm like, oh, okay. Mythic is a reliable company of repute. I'll pay out the nose for this. I'll do it. I'll do the thing. I'm gonna have one Kickstarter in my background that is I paid the full load. So I paid for the Ancestral Edition. I get every expansion, all the special content, all the doodads. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Um, I even had the funds to pay extra when they were like, "Hey, the COVID is hit, the shipping is screwed. We need more money." And you've got everybody complaining. They're like, "Oh no,
Oh.
they're scamming us." It's like, no, man, just do your bit. You already committed, you know, right?
Well, yeah,
Uh,
especially if they're
and then
shipping from overseas, that's
right,
another can of worms.
right, and then that's the thing. It's like, okay, well, what else did Joe got on circuit? I've got OSE and Advanced OSE on the way because
Wait,
those
you
became
got both classic and advanced?
in physical and PDF.
Okay, like like when I was talking to people about OSC, they said just get advanced because it's got the classic and it's got more stuff in there. And I was like, all right, I just went for advanced myself. I didn't get both.
Well, that might be the case. I certainly didn't talk to any before I snagged, but at the same time, I mean, I tell people it's like, look, man, I have a much healthier meth habit, and it's called games. So,
It's addictive
um,
as hell.
and
Yes,
then
it is.
you know, Cyborg dropped the Kickstarter, and as one of their add-ons, they were like, "Do you want Morkborg too?" And I was like, "Of course I want Morkborg." So I've got Cyborg and Morkborg physical on the way,
Yeah,
right? Um, all of this all at once, and the Darkest Dungeon one isn't even the full thing; it's phase one, meaning that if I have to move in the middle, it's like I've got to figure out how to progress my mail,
yeah,
right?
and
So they ship it properly, which is just not a good place.
it's not a good, yeah, not a good place
Um,
to be in at all. That's not a good position.
yeah.
But like, I think you were the one that showed me Darkest Dungeon, and I was like,
I did.
oh my god, I was like, I'm drooling,
Now,
and I'm like, oh my god,
now
if
I don't
I only
know.
had the cash.
Well, I don't know if he's here. I invited him. He has your information, but I was on a podcast yesterday evening, sort of late night, with John Dillard. John Dillard is an artist, self-taught but of great skill, who made a comic called The Buckler, right? Which you can't get it anymore, but you know there's more Buckler content to be had, and if you can get a copy, get it. It's amazing. Um, he I paid for a physical copy of the book, and it came with a piece of art made by John, right? And like some doodads, some coasters and whatnot, uh, which were gratis. I didn't even have to pay for those. Um, so just the other week, that stuff arrived, right? And I'm like, yay! But it took a trip because there had been some kind of delivery mistake, and it had not actually been delivered to me, so it had been sent back to his business address. And when I
Oh,
mentioned it, and when I mentioned it to him, he's like, "Oh, I will get that to you immediately." And he directly mailed it to me ASAP because
nice.
he is all about fulfill. Um, so you know, it's like you know, I have a nearly one of a kind first run comic book that I paid for as a backer on my shelf now.
And like right now, while I'm waiting for my tea to finish steeping,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the artwork, the artwork alone for Arcanus. I don't even want to know how much they spent on this artwork because it's it's truly amazing. And anyone who has been in tabletop RPGs, especially when it comes to the books, what makes them so expensive is the artwork. Because when like what is it, like over half the budget for a book, like right now I'm writing one, and you know, you're kind of writing the text and you're getting all the flavor in there and you're trying to mix the two and get a nice little balance in there. So players come in with their feet wet and their imaginations ready and ready to take off. But then there's the layout to consider, which that takes a little time, that takes some effort. I'm definitely not going to discount anybody who does layout. But then you've got art, and art just blows budget. Like it's almost like making a movie. You can throw a camera on just about anybody. You can write a script, you can direct the scene. But then there's the music, and you got to pay for the licensing to that. It's pretty much like that. Most of your budget is going to go toward that end. And on top of that, I'm sitting here looking at this book and I'm thinking, I don't know who they went through, but I can tell you right now, this looks like. Oh, I still remember stories of TSR when they did Advanced
Uh,
Dungeons and Dragons, going through
a,
a school textbook company to make their books.
Wolfgar,
Yeah.
when you return, our guests have arrived. If that
Aha.
requires me to
Yes.
bow out, I will do so.
Okay. So, without further ado, here we are going to be talking. We're going to add to stream. Firefay, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Hold on one moment, guys.
Sure. Yeah. Good time. By the way,
Should actually
Stein,
admit it. Yo.
that monitor back there,
Yeah.
nice Mjolnir. I have the same red background, right?
Yeah.
I have the same one on my laptop.
Nice. Well, it's my it's my TV, but I have my desktop hooked up to it.
That's what I'm using as a computer monitor too, as a TV. So
I'm sorry to say, but at a great distance in my itty bitty window, it looks like a penis. But at the same time, that's not inappropriate, I suppose.
That's not
I came in at the wrong point in that conversation.
No, you came in just at the right time.
Faye, we were talking. What was it, Tuesday? Stein and I, and one of the things that got brought up was the tribe is a little bit of a sausage fest at times.
Oh, just a little.
It is definitely, and as the fru, I was talking to one of the other females, and we were discussing how we would love to be able to include the females without being overbearing with the males and saying, ew, why are you talking about that? Gross, ew. So we were trying to figure out how we could do something to include just the females. And so I've meditated on it, of course, because that's just who I am. Someone can tell you I am definitely one of those people that loves to meditate and drink my tea and sit with my familiar who is with me. And, I just, do my thing. And then I came up with the idea that we should do a female-only section of the tribe.
So they can talk about all the girly stuff without us men intervening or just be like, oh, okay, you know what, we're tapping out, bye.
Well, I know Rachel has talked pretty extensively about divine feminine type things, and
that's
she brings up so many good points about that I mean, I don't discount it. I'm like, I'm not like, oh, that's girly stuff. I gotta roll out. I'm looking at it and I'm going, that's actually really good because I'm a Libra, and the thing about Libras, we are all about balance. So I was like, when this got announced, I was pretty intrigued. I was like, I know that I'm not getting into it. That's fine, but I think it's really good because kind of going into that huddle, you could come out with a good play. You can come out with a good strategy, and I think that's really what's needed in our group, especially.
Mm-hmm. That explains why we both vibe, and I stumble over people sometimes. It's because I'm an Aries.
I'm a Sagittarius, so I kind of throw fire everywhere.
Well, Moots is also an Aries, and she tends to get pretty fiery at times herself. So
I'm a Capricorn. I just headbutt you into next week.
I'm fiery as fiery gets.
What I find interesting, just as a side note, is I have in my area, because Washington State's a whole. I can't suppose other places. I have found more than a few pagan females who get really resentful when you point out the dichotomy of male and female as extant, as a component of the belief, right?
I have noticed that, yes.
They're all four
I've noticed
private places, but when you point out that it's like there's female magic and there's male magic and they aren't the same thing, they get really offended, like you're taking something away. And it's like, no, you can respect someone while being aware of the need for separation, because the most powerful workings are the times when everybody comes together, right? So having your own shield maiden space, is that what we're calling it? The shield space?
Shield maiden / witches, because I'm a witch.
That doesn't indicate iconoclasm. You're not, hiding away separate and the two shall
Mm-mm.
never meet. You're just saying you need a place to be you, while we have a place to
Yeah.
be, the sausage party.
Well,
That
one of my favorite
That's the thing
examples is
too,
the
because one of the practices that I've noticed when I was going into a metaphysical store here, I'm not going to say names, but when I went in there, we were discussing, I hate saying this because this is a sausage fest right now, but it was talking about menstrual blood magic. And I
Very
know that's
powerful,
gonna
very
like
potent.
make you guys cringe. I know it's gonna make
Nope.
you cringe.
nope, nope.
But
Honey,
we
You
were
want to make me
I've
talking
dealt
cringe?
with
I'll
about
work a little harder.
I've dealt with females
we
all my life. I've seen just about everything. So
Yeah,
but we were talking about the menstrual blood magic. And it's very sacred to a female. Very sacred. And I'm sorry, dudes, you won't understand because you don't menstruate. And
I hope so.
a gentleman comes into the store, brings in his vibrations of masculinity, like to the ninth degree. Like, he's there. Like, you just know. And we were all discussing it, and then all of a sudden he's just like, I don't understand why females have to have the right to talk about their menstruations, like, all the time. And it started a debate. And it was just like,
Like,
if you
yet
don't
us
like us talking about it, there's the door.
and
well, I
yet
remember
And
us
there
I
was
know
men can
there's
talk
a,
about our member like any time of the day.
right,
It's
and
like
I
but menstruation's very different, though, darling. You know this.
yeah, no,
Menstruation's very
I
different.
I mean, I do. I know. I realize that, but it's just
I still remember. This has been several years ago. Well, probably more than that, but I do remember there was this big issue, and it was primarily here in the states
Hmm.
about women breastfeeding their children in public. And I'm sitting there thinking, wait, where's the problem?
well,
It's not.
That's why
expose your
we came out with the
breast.
Many
booby hat.
Right, exactly. I mean, and I see it in public all the time. It doesn't even bother me because I'm sitting there
Mm-mm.
going, look, the kid needs feeding, and the mother's covered up. It's not like they're whipping it out and just doing it right then and there, and it's
Oh,
not
my
like
friends were
a,
whipping it out
the
there. My friends were whipping it out there.
the
No, but it's a mother nurturing her child. Like
that's
what's
it. Yeah,
wrong
and
with that?
the
I mean, I think that's like really us men. Like we have to sexualize everything and anything.
everything. Yeah, and one
well,
of the
even
I
And
still remember
that's the
this.
hard part.
Just working back there with one of my floater pharmacists, we were talking about, like, personally, I'm lactose intolerant, so I have to watch it when I'm eating ice cream. A little bit. I'm okay. I'm serious.
I'm
But
lactose
no,
too,
no,
but I
I'm
still
I'm
eat it.
sorry. I'm sorry. My brain just jumped because I'm a 12-year-old to the idea you have to watch it when you're breastfeeding because you're lactose intolerant.
no, no, no.
Christ.
Ice cream.
Oh my
Ice
god.
cream. Goddamn.
Oh
No,
shit! Oh, like
no,
that. Oh, the movie with Jim Carrey, Me, Myself, and I. Like him with the milk mustache.
but
Uh,
the thing that I was talking to my floater pharmacist, and we were talking about dairy at the time, and she said, and she brought up a good point. She's like, cows, milk that comes from cows, it's loaded with hormones for baby cows, and that's why
Hmm.
human beings are not going to take very well to it in many cases. It's just like, you're not a baby cow, are you? And I'm like,
oh,
definitely
it's
not.
oh, it's
But
Yes,
that's
yes, I
that's the thing.
am.
oh,
I can
it's
drink a full liter of milk or eat a kilo of
oh, it's
yogurt and
it's
just be
it's
fine.
it's worse than that, Wolfgar. You and I are in the states.
Yeah,
Fox
I am
on
too.
this the 5th of November is in the
Yeah.
better place because he gets actual milk. Our milk is full of bovine growth hormone, and through the process of biomagnification, that stuff is negatively affecting our hormonal interactions. So you're not just drinking moo juice that's not meant for humans. You're drinking moo juice full of stuff that is meant for cows, that is to make the cows bigger, that is not meant for humans either.
right,
Yeah.
right. And the point I'm trying to
That's
make
why
here
I'm
is,
glad I don't drink milk.
There you
right,
go.
the point I was making here, especially linking it back to the breastfeeding thing. You know, like, human milk from a mother is loaded with human hormones. That's what it's meant for. So it's the most nutritious thing a baby can get, and it's like,
I
just
do believe
just
I do
taking it
believe
from
that
that point of view, it's like, why would you deny a child the most, the healthiest thing that they can get at the time? And
It's
children can't
because
control when they get
men
there.
have sexualized it. Men have sexualized breastfeeding, and that's
well,
where,
just
as a mom,
breasts in general. So whenever like one gets
even
ripped
breastfeeding,
out,
honey. I've told you my
Well,
stories
yeah,
of my son's
yeah.
dad.
Oh,
well, in a
With their unit, they actually, I hate saying this all live, I do, bless our soldiers, but because I was a spouse to somebody who was in the armed forces, they had a little group called the Breastfeeder Love Club.
no.
And at a young mom at my young age, hearing that, witnessing that, I got scared to breastfeed because I didn't know who was sexualizing over it, like my
Yeah,
ex-husband.
Well,
it's like
And that's
having a
where it
parent.
was, mhm.
It's
And it
like
was very
guys.
difficult. And so that's where, you men have sexualized it to the point where some women are afraid to breastfeed.
well, well,
yeah.
part
Well,
of it is. I'm sorry.
I
You're
just
okay.
wanted to kind of make
Yeah.
this remark for just a moment. And just growing up in the South, I could say I've seen this, but it's kind of like one thing leads to another. And as I've always said, if you make something taboo, someone's going to seek it out, and
Mm-hmm.
most will actually take it to a healthy end. So if you make a certain type of music taboo, someone's going to listen to it and go, "Wait, there's nothing wrong with this." Others are going to
Mm-hmm.
just go hard. I mean, we're talking like you tell them
Yeah.
Ozzy Osbourne's evil. Later on down the line, you find out they're Burzum and Mayhem fans. You know, they're going hard in the paint
Mm-hmm.
over it,
Well,
and it comes with our. And I do say this: I think our society, in terms of the human body, in terms of sex, is repressed, especially here in the states, due to the fundamentalist movement. What, back in the 70s and 80s, where it was this
Mm-hmm.
push to be very prudish, and that did
About
not go
everything.
at us, because now we have people with very they sought something, and after a while that didn't do it. Now they're going hard in the paint. Now they're most of
well,
them are porn addicts, and they're looking at these
well,
things from
Mm-hmm.
a pornographic point of view rather than a natural human
Yeah.
perspective. And in that case, I think that's what's hurting it. So
well,
Mm-hmm.
the people you
And
describe are taking a very unhealthy approach to it.
what I was
and
gonna
I
say.
Yes.
Sorry.
oh go
Okay.
ahead.
What I was gonna say, which was in the same vein, you covered some of my points I was gonna bring up, is it's older than even that because it's cyclical. The modern fundamentalism was reactionism to the free love movement. The free love movement was a reaction to the extreme conservatism of like the early 50s, and on all the way back to the settlement by Europeans, because yet again the Puritans, who were not above getting freaky, were also very much about the state of divine grace and comporting yourselves properly. And if you anything bad happened to you, you must therefore have been a sinner. You deserved it. That's a deep intrinsic part of our cultural DNA in America. And that's the thing, is that for the sake of establishing the notion of property rights, and I love how people like to not understand that one. Not only did we make natural belief systems and paganism illicit, right? But that's where actually the idea of women as second class citizens come from. It's not that in the ancient
Mm-hmm.
world women were first class citizens. It's that in the ancient world, women and men were seen as equivalent but different, serving different all important roles in their
Yeah.
respective religious and social veins. So, women feeding children was just, you did it where you had to do it. It wasn't sexualized because it was survival. In the
And
same way,
it was completely natural.
Right. In the same way, what got this conversation started, the reason that was a mystical and powerful practice was not just its significance to women, but I don't think it's mentioned enough. Not that I'm calling you out or anything. Please don't take it that way. Um,
I'm
its
not.
significance to men, the ancient world's confusion and fear, but also awe at the idea that a woman can suffer a wound from her body from nowhere once every
Mm-hmm.
month, and it can drive her insane, and it can make her powerful
Stein
in
can tell
ways
you
we
that.
don't understand. Right?
Yeah.
That she
Yeah.
suffers pain, and we have no utility to. There's no demon we can fight, no monster we can overcome, no warrior we can dispatch to make the cramps go away. Right? And then this
Well,
same
and that's
woman.
what's so interesting is that I'm Native American, and I've told Stein this. Raven knows this. And as somebody who's trying to learn about her heritage, I have read in books that they actually had a special tent for women who were on their menstruation. And they broke cake together, they drank together, they laughed together, they sang together for that whole week. And it
Well,
was it's very spiritual in that. And that's why I kind of wanted to bring that to our tribe, is because I wanted people to, well, women, to celebrate who they are, not to be afraid of who they are. And that's where it's like, it's sticky right now because do I include, this is going to come out so wrong, but do I include men who identify as women? Do I identify with the two spirits within the Native American teachings where a man recognizes his feminine side but is also a man? Or do I include a
that's a
woman
slippery
who
slope.
identifies
Very
That's a
with
much
real,
so.
that
that's a real slippery
man
slope.
side?
And to be
And
honest,
that's
there's
where
really
it's like, it's
no good
hard.
way to put that. Especially
No, it's not. And
especially
that's
in
why I like,
today's climate being what it is.
well, that's what
and
that's what
that's
you and
why
I
I like
were.
the term, that's why I like the term, instead of transgender, I like the term two spirit. Because in Native American teachings, there is not just two sexes, there is six. And that's why I like the term two spirit. Two spirit feminine, two spirit masculine, male female, one
Yeah,
who
but
likes to dress as female, one who
in
likes to dress up as male.
The,
And that's
but
why
the
it's kind of sticky right now. I'm trying
the
to figure
thing
out
to
what
remember
I'm going to do.
is that unfortunately, we don't live in a society like that. We don't live in a society
Mm-mm.
like basically. We lost our spirituality. We lost our divine spark. Some of us have found it back. Others are in the process of
Struggling.
finding it back, and others have found it back, but
Mm-hmm.
are still, yeah, as you said, struggling with it. Okay, like I know what my heritage is, and blah blah blah. Now what? And this is another reason why I don't um, like politics in the tribe. It's why I founded a separate group. I mean, especially for Josh, of course, because he likes to talk politics. No offense, bro. We love you, but
You mean get a room version?
yeah, that too. The more 18 plus, not safe for
Get
work.
a room
That was his idea, by the
For
way.
certain
That was
members.
solely his idea.
And just to point out, the like you can tell this is the reason I've gotten so involved with this group is because we actually have a sense of humor about ourselves. We take our research very seriously, but
Yeah,
everything else we're having fun, and that's where the real fellowship comes in because we are having some of the most fun we've ever had in our lives
yeah,
with any group. And I can tell you I've had groups where I've had some fun, but this is where I probably had the most fun. I probably have more than a human being should be allowed to have. But there's one thing I wanted to bring up, and I really
Mm-hmm.
wanted to, being halfway into this podcast, in fact, I want to know your thoughts on this one, especially. I know
Okay.
specifically in Norse culture,
Hmm.
magic was the domain of women only,
Yes.
and any man caught practicing it to turn the tide of battle or to turn the hunt his way, that was considered dishonorable. They were
It was
called
taboo.
If
yeah,
you're
they were called
talking about
energy or
Seder,
otter, and
yes.
in some cases that's an offense that you could be outlawed, which means you were literally exiled from your entire society, or even worse than that, maybe. And
Hmm.
if you were outlawed, it was for like a year and a day, and then you could come back in. But after that, there was execution. I mean, we're talking killed, thrown in a bog so you couldn't reincarnate. Also, the second point about women in that culture, they held the keys literally held keys to the entire estate. The man did not, because the man was away most
Hmm.
of the time making
That's how it
or
was in Native
selling
American stuff
what
too.
exactly. I really would like to know your thoughts, and are there any similarities
Well, can I?
to the other cultures that you've looked into?
Well, can I squeeze in just real quick?
So I've noticed that. Um. Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I just want to say that's why I was mentioning earlier the idea of property rights. If we go back to the ancient conversion, Rome and the like, they were patrilineal. Uh, Property rights descended from men, and that is inherited into the feudal medieval world. But many pre-Christian and pagan societies were either dual lineal, where both men and women traced by familial lineage, and it's really complicated, or matrilineal, because, as you say, the men would go out and do the war, the women were more likely to survive, therefore it was easier to trace by whose mother held the property. Um, Doubly so in the
Hmm.
Scandinavian world, because with the cycle of feud and boast, if they weren't killing other people, they were killing each other. There was a lot of opportunity for property to be lost, but the family had to be held together. So women were extremely powerful at that time.
Which
And
is
that's
another
where the
reason why they
duality
want
comes into
women on the
place
work
too.
floor.
Yes, that's where the duality comes in place too. Is, for example, my middle name means warrior. And I've talked to my mom a lot about it. I'm like, why did you give me the middle name that you did that means warrior? She's like, because, women are strong, they are capable. And yes, when, let's say, your man was killed in battle, you grieved, but you held your family together. You held that unit together. And that's where it is in the Native American culture as well that I've found. I'm not saying it's completely legit, but I have found that women in all cultures came together when their man was killed. And that could be the grandma, the mom, the aunties, the cousins. I mean, it could be anybody within that unit. They came together and they held down the fort. And sometimes the woman never remarried.
Real,
Sometimes they
real
did
quick,
find someone
why do
else.
you think they like? I'm personally, when I look at why a woman wouldn't remarry, to me that would be like honoring the memory of her husband. But
Mhm.
in your opinion, were there other reasons, or was it just that?
Some women just didn't feel like the need to. For example, one of my friends, she lost her spouse to the war, the Iraqi war,
Hmm.
and it hit her hard. It hit her hard. She just gave birth to her son. She refused to remarry because she felt like, in a way, she was cheating on him. And it was still so fresh. And that's where, as a woman, God forbid if something did happen to Stein, sorry, love, but I would probably want to move on with my life and find someone new because the thing is, Stein wouldn't want me to be unhappy. He wouldn't want me to be stuck. in this rut where I'm not going to remarry. And that's where my friend, she's stuck in this rut where she does not want to because she was so young. She was 18 when they got married.
How long? How
And
long was she? How long was she married to her husband?
they were only married for 8 months before he was killed.
Oh,
But they were childhood best friends.
oh, that's even worse.
Oh, yikes.
And so that's where God rest his soul, wherever he is, the gods rest his soul. But she took it hard. I mean, at 18, you just graduated high school and you get married, and then 8 months later, he's killed.
Oh man,
I
it's
mean,
probably fresh out of boot too.
he actually got his parents' permission at 17. So
Ooh.
he had been in for almost a year and a half at that point.
Oh,
And
mm.
so that's where it's hard, you know? And Stein and I have talked about it all the time, where if I die before him, I will haunt him till the end of his days. So he can't find anyone else.
Yeah,
Whereas with
she
me,
will.
I know he's
She
going to be
will.
haunting me, but I'm going to give him the bird and just move on with my life. But the thing is, it's just like that's where it's like it's a sticky subject too, because a lot of people take marriage seriously, and that's where a lot of people have lost that. And
Well,
that's where, you know, as somebody who's been married before, I refused to settle down again. I told myself I'm never going to find anybody. I'm going to be a single mom for the rest of my days. That's fine. I have my son. I have my dogs. I have my cats. I have my familiar who keeps coming back to me for God knows why. But,
Food,
you know,
food.
I love her though. She's my baby. But that's where, you know, I told myself I was never going to do it. You know, I was in a very dark place and I told myself I was never going to do it. And Stein and I met on a Facebook group. And me being derpy said, "Hey, I hope it was okay if I messaged you." And then almost 3 years later, we've been together. So
yeah.
that's where it's like, you know, I told myself I was never going to do it again. But Stein and I have realized that we've had a lot of lives together. And this one is going to be the one that we make it work.
Break the cycle.
Make the most of
Mm-hmm.
it. Yeah. Uh, in your
Well,
in
there's a
your
lot.
in your opinion, this is one that has come up before.
Mm-hmm.
This whole subject. Just kind of going back to 1999 when Fight Club makes its premiere in the theaters. This movie talks a lot about, especially Tyler mentioning that he graduates high school, asks his dad, "What should I do?" "I don't know. Go to college." He goes to college. He graduates. "All right, now what, Dad?" "I don't know. Get a job." He gets a job. He's moving up. "Well, now what, Dad?" "I don't know. Get married." And the first thing that happens is it cuts to Edward Norton. He goes, "I can't get married. I'm a 35-year-old boy." And then Tyler cuts in with, "We're a generation
Yeah.
of men raised by women. I'm wondering if another woman is what we need." In your opinion,
Mm-hmm.
how important is having a father in the picture?
It depends on the situation. My situation is completely different than everyone else's. Um, my ex made that choice when my baby was fairly young to not be in the picture. And so that's why I kind of decided to do both roles as best as I could. And I am essentially mom and I am essentially dad. And that's where when Stein came into my life, because I was so stuck in that mode of being mom and dad, that when he came into my life, it scared me because my son does have men in his life that he looks up to. And that's why I tell everybody Stein came in with a bang. like a literal bang. And he gives me advice based on how he would be as a father. And it helps me with my son. And that's where it helps me realize you do need that. And that's where a lot of people don't understand. Dads give the best kind of love that they can, but moms are the nurturers. We've always have been. And that's where I had to allow myself to allow Stein into my life, into my inner circle. And that was very hard. And that's where trust is a huge component.
Well, if we're going to use toxic media depictions as our guideline, Wolfgar, because let's face it, Fight Club is not the best example of proper masculinity. You last podcast, you and I were talking about the film Strangeland, D. Schneider,
Yes.
right? And if you don't recall, Captain Howdy's primary thesis, in fact, stated in film, was that we are a society of half men, half children, searching for meaning because we have done away even with the perfunctory, socially acceptable transition rituals that we used to observe.
The rites of passage, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
becoming
the initiations.
Becoming an adult now is get a car, get a girl, go to a make-out lane if you think it's safe, and fondle for 5 minutes, and then you're an adult somehow. The actual sense of physical or spiritual awakening is no longer a component. Now, obviously, because film, that character takes it to an unnatural, dangerous extreme that should not be replicated. But it's one of those weird situations
that's Hollywood
where the villain's not wrong. Yeah.
Well, even the protagonist. Well, I hate to even call him a protagonist in Fight Club. In Fight Club, it's also taken to an extreme, a rather dangerous and even deadly extreme at times, where these guys they're beating the hell out of each other, and they're finding, like in those moments they're finding, I'm beat up, but I can't believe how happy I am. They find a catharsis there, and this is one of those things. I don't think Rachel brought it up directly, but it did come indirectly. I did read a little bit into something she posted where men do need catharsis, and even among the British, I can tell you from Alan Carr's book, Easy Way to Stop Smoking, he maintained that British men are taught to keep a stiff upper lip, keep the back straight, keep that chest puffed out, stay stoic almost. But, it's like now you're denying that other part of you that needs that release. Bill Maher just recently brought it up with the Halloween costume controversy. And he was like, even pagan tribes understood then that you needed a release valve, and being able to get dressed up. And as a release, I can tell you right now, I did a Halloween costume first time ever at a job because this was the job that allowed it. And I just really never done it before. And I've been working there almost 7 years now, but I've never done it before. I did it this time, and I went completely way out with it, and everybody was loving it. And of course, even Rachel brought this up during the Weaving Spiders podcast, which was pretty accurate, because I got dressed up for that one too. And she's like, "There's a little bit of a character in there, and that character is just kind of peeking through with the costume." And here I am dressed up, and I noticed by the end of the day that character had come completely out. Like, I'm talking differently, I'm acting differently, still doing the job, but a completely different person was standing there on the floor of that place doing the work. And let me tell you something, never been happier in my life. It was one of the greatest experiences ever. But that need for catharsis, I don't know that I'd count that as a feminine side, but it is emotional, and it needs to come out. Otherwise, we come from a culture now that we're taught to bottle it up until, and on top of that, the kids are being treated like Fabergé eggs, so delicate and
Yeah.
so pretty all the time that when the shell finally breaks, then we have the school shooter. Then we have all the other stuff. Give me just a minute. I'm gonna kill Cam again. But anyway, we have all the other stuff going on. We have that toxicity taken to an extreme, and it happens for
Mhm.
both genders, male and female, both.
You
It,
might
Mhm.
not
it
know.
really can't be denied.
You might not know, but it's actually an overreaction, again, cyclical nature, to the previous generation's understanding of anger. As an example, because in the '60s and '70s, into the early '80s, the idea was you have to express your emotions. You have to let your emotions all hang out, right?
Yeah,
So the idea that you're a man, you're in the workplace, you're working hard, and you're angry, it was perceived as good to explode. You yell, they yell, you get it out, and you're done, and you get back to work. The thing that was discovered by researchers and scientists, and it's true, it's a thing that has to be considered, is that this wasn't actually good for you because you became addicted to the adrenaline rush of being angry. Your body liked
Yeah.
being angry, so you'd
Yeah.
be angrier all the time, right? Which
And
leads to all kinds of like heart disease and mental ailment, and uh, it's about healthy expressions. The thing is that the same people that are saying and don't be angry, don't have bad thoughts, they fail to understand that sometimes you'll want to feel bad. Sometimes anger is good, or sorrow is
yeah.
acceptable. You know, because that was my thing. How did Joe end up a creepy little goth kid? My sister died at 7 of
Oof.
sudden infant death syndrome. Right, I was 7, she was baby. It messed me up. Try having at such a young age to rationalize death. Right,
right.
and
Yeah, that
like
makes
I
sense.
feel bad. Society's telling me it's wrong to feel bad, but my parents telling me it's okay to feel bad because something bad happened. Right, and then I would look
Mhm.
around at being blue collar. I would look around at the slightly more upper and middle class young people who were always happy and always smiling. And kids are sensitive to things. You can tell if you know what you're looking for. There's
Oh, my
quiet
son is very sensitive.
desperation, and there's quiet desperation and like panic behind their eyes. People will judge
Mhm.
me if I express myself. People will be upset if I'm upset. I have to be positive all the time. This
Yeah.
toxic positivity all the time. So I was like, no, I'm gonna be in a bad mood because I want to be in a bad mood. This is my subversive act. I'm gonna wear dark clothes. I'm gonna
Mhm.
listen to bad music, and I'm gonna read the books that you tell me not to read.
And I do believe that like here in the Netherlands we don't really have that. Like we don't have, well, we really don't have school shooters. We don't really have those, those mass trauma events. I mean, yeah,
It's
they
Well,
because you guys
sure
have
they happen
really
every now and
put down
then.
on stuff.
well,
But
that's the
you've
thing.
put down
Well,
on
Very,
things.
very
and because
recently,
we've always been more, and I don't know really a better way to say this, but we've always been more liberal, more open about things. Like the whole sexual revolution and stuff. Like we never were that suppressed. I mean, like yeah, my grandparents. I mean, like literally my late grandmother from mother's side. I mean, but I guess that was kind of how it went in those days. She has 3 kids, my mother, my auntie, and my uncle. Not because because her and my late grandfather wanted kids, but just because it happened.
well,
She didn't know what she was doing, but like literally, she didn't know what she was doing. So because they never really had that education. But my father, on the other hand, from father and my mother from their generation, and I do think it's different too if you're like if you grow up in the city or more in a smaller town. You know, we
Mhm.
were from quite early on, like I believe in the 60s and 70s, we were one of the first who would show like a naked woman on or a naked woman on television. And yeah, there was like an outrage back then. And it's like, oh, you're like you don't do that and whatever. But later on, it was like, okay,
Well,
we
I
were the first ones to legalize gay marriage, like all the way in well, like the early 2000s. Like we were the first with that in a
And
lot of
that's what
things.
you and I have talked about too, hun, is we've talked about that too.
Exactly.
well,
And
I
on
And
top of that,
that's the
our
thing.
our
Mhm.
healthcare is just so much better. And
Oh
I
god,
don't
yeah.
I
I
don't
remember talking to you about that too.
exactly, you know,
You're
I don't pay 20,000 for a doctor's visit or like a dentist visit. I don't
well,
need to make a choice like do I call an ambulance
mm-mm.
or do I want to pay my rent? You
well,
know, I
Well, and
don't
the other
have
thing
to make
that
that choice.
well, the thing that blows my mind too about your guys' healthcare is when my son was born, going back to that, when my son was
Mhm.
born, it was during my ex's mid tour, and my ex was only able to be home for 2 weeks. My son was
Well,
born at the end of the first week. So, or no, a week and a half, because my ex only was able to spend 3 days with his son before he had to ship back over.
mhm.
And that's the thing that America does horribly wrong by the new parents is that when the baby's born, you only have 2 months of a maternity leave. There's not even a paternity leave. And Stein had a colleague who recently had a baby girl who is absolutely precious.
Yeah.
When she was born at home. And to me, that's like, wait, what? Because that's still kind of new here. But
It's
over
preferred here
there,
actually. Like
it's preferred.
most of our
And
women
if,
and mothers to be prefer a home birth.
and that's where it's like, wait, what? That's, whoa. And the
I mean,
thing is, what's
hospital
more
births are the
interesting too
exception.
is the men are required to have a paternity leave for at least 2 weeks
Yeah.
to
Well,
help with the baby, to help with the food, to help with the other kids, to help with cleaning, to give mom a moment to just be with the baby.
I
And
know
that's where,
in our pharmacy, one of our pharmacists, his wife had a baby not too long ago, and
mhm,
this guy took off something. I think he took off a month for paternity leave once, and then he
Mhm.
did it again. I think not like he came back. I think for about a month, and then the next month he was off again. And he had taken a lot of time off during this last year over it. So I'm not sure how much of that was paternity leave, say for those 2 months, but I know he took off. I know his wife took off. I don't
Well, they
they probably
recall
had
how
they
long.
complications.
Yeah,
yeah, like vacation
oh,
days and sick days. If you count all those up, then like yeah, you'll come to like a month and a
yeah,
half. Because
and I remember him being gone for a while over it, but I'm gonna say this: like he always has stories about his kids. Like you don't get that unless you've spent time with them, and
well,
exactly.
you
well,
could
you,
tell that this guy spent a lot of time with his kids.
well, I'm always
And
talking about
that's the thing.
how. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm always talking about how my old man was a piece of shit. But
I
my
felt
old
you
man
on that one.
my old man had his positive elements. Part of the reason my dad stepped out of the Navy wasn't just because his career had become a dead end because he wasn't progressing, right? Uh, but he came home on leave one day, right? And because I was an early adapter, I was already talking,
Hmm.
right? And he was like, I'm missing too much. I've got to come home. I've got to see my child, right? So yeah, my mom had to put up with my old man. She loved him despite his flaws, right? But he was at least, if nothing else, there for his family did his best to provide in spite of his flaws. So he had his laudable element, right? And I will never deny him that. I will never deny that he was at least attempting to be a good man.
And that's a major difference here in the Netherlands, or at least in Europe, because from what I hear, like being in the military in the US, it's kind of expected that at least as a young man you serve some time in the military,
Exactly, and
like.
that's how it
And
is.
here it's more exception than rule. Like if you want to go into the military, okay, then go spend some time in the military if that's what you want. Like it's not
Well, you guys don't
expected
push
of
it.
you.
You don't push
No,
it.
like my brother, my younger brother, recently turned 27. Never served a day in the military. I'm 30 years old. Never served a day in the military. My father is 60 years old. Yes, he is. I'll say it correct, darling. He is seasoned. If I say he's
Thank you.
old, I'm gonna get smacked in the back of the head. Um,
Oh,
but
someone said,
my
that, is that Firefay? Yes, it is Firefay. Hi.
Yes, it is. Yay.
Sorry about
but
that. Sorry, honey.
so that's yeah, no, it's okay. But my father is 60 years old. He never
Um,
served a day in the military. My grandfathers, on the other hand, yeah, well, they were alive during World War II, so they had to.
yeah. Wolfgar, if you need me to scoot so somebody else can come in, just let me know and I'll expedite. I don't know if you paid for the StreamYard or not.
Oh no, no, not at all. I think I can host up to like anywhere from like 6 to 10 people, so we're good.
Okay. Well, because I have known people that are like, oh, Joe, I'd love to have you, but I just can't have you on. There's too many people. It's like, okay.
But I
Joey,
just
we want you here. We want you here.
Okay.
exactly
We love
what she said.
you.
But
You can't see me doing that, but we love you.
but on the subject of military families, it's actually extra funny because when you actually talk to someone in the military in this country, who isn't a recruiter, obviously, they actively say don't join unless you want to, because we're a
Well, and
professional
here's the funny thing.
military, and they know that it's like, look, you join for a goal, just like going to college. If you're just joining because you think you're socially expected to, you won't get as much out of it. They want that professionalism to come out.
Joey, to piggyback off of you, I
Please.
live in a military town. I'm surrounded by bases. I'm surrounded by 5, I think, mostly Air Force and Army. But to piggyback off of you, when I talk to veterans or people who are in or people who want to join, I get 3 answers and 3 answers only. And it's gonna be interesting. I ask veterans who are older, who are seasoned, because I love saying that they're seasoned. I used to work in a nursing home. I had World War II vets who I would sit down and talk with at lunch. And they would tell me, I loved it. I loved serving my country. I would do it all over again. I got to see the world. 100% yes. Then I have the ones who are in Vietnam all the way up till this era. And they tell me, I ask them, do you miss the service? First words out of their mouth without even hesitation, hell no. You ask, somebody who's in Iraqi freedom and Afghanistan enduring freedom. I don't know. As you can tell, I'm not military. You ask them, do you miss the service? I get, maybe, perhaps, I don't know. So that's where you can tell the generation. You get I would do it all over again with the World War II vets, to hell no to the Vietnams, to maybe to the newer generation.
Well,
And that's the thing too, where I was talking to my granddad when he was alive. God rest his soul, love him to death. He's one of my spirit guides. Woo! But when I was talking to him when I was younger, because I was wanting to join the Air Force, because no one in my family had joined. And I talked to him about it, and I said I really want to join the Air Force. And then he got into the story of how when he was younger, he was looked at for World War II. And he couldn't join because of his eyesight. He was legally blind in one eye. He couldn't join. And so in that time and period, if you didn't join, people looked at you differently. They didn't look at you as a hero. They didn't look at you as somebody who did right by the country because you didn't serve in the World War II era. And then you ask somebody who had to join in Vietnam because of the draft. My dad didn't join because X, Y, and Z. I don't even know because he won't tell me. But in that era, they were spit on. They were called baby killers. They were ridiculed and they were hurt badly when they were over there. And that's where that era will tell you, hell no, they don't miss it. They would never do it again. And then you have these young kids now who, I work at a convenience store here in town, and I work across the street from a high school. And I have these kids who are coming in because they want to join because of their World War II grandparents who served. Not because of the ones in between, but because of the World War II.
Well,
so it's just interesting how you can have the different generations.
I would not presume to disagree with you. As you say, you live immersed in military culture, surrounded by bases.
God, yeah.
But it could also be like an added facet could be depending on your branch. My father was Navy and may have had a different experience to Army, Air Force. You know, the Marines or the Navy, they just don't want to admit it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would assume that the same generational disparity exists, but the experiential flavor may be different. Where I was informed of my knowledge was by my forensics professor, who was former CID, right? And he, in describing military life to his students, hey, we lost Faye.
Yeah, you're kind of breaking up.
You want me?
That too.
I'm sorry.
There we go. Got her back. Let me just add her.
Sorry.
Back. There we go.
Oh,
sorry, guys. Cleo decided to hit the and Kim. And
do you want me to step back in?
No, it was my familiar. She kind of pushed the X and
right, but apparently I'm breaking up a bit.
No, you're fine. My familiar was just being herself.
But yeah. I was just saying, my forensics professor is the guy who told me this because he's former CID, and that's again a different branch, different experience, different set of information. And again, I'm in the Pacific Northwest, different regions, so it's entirely open to a lot of different factors for a lot of different perspectives.
Well, I even have the Canadian military here because of a huge top secret one. You guys can gather which one I'm talking about.
Do they hate it if you call them Dudley Do-Right?
Oh, no. But you know which base I'm talking about. You know the top secret one that no one needs to know about. Shh. That tracks Santa. Shh.
I haven't heard about any such thing.
So, yeah. Shh.
I literally don't know what I literally don't know what you're talking about.
I know you don't, honey. That's the point.
Well, that's because you're from the Netherlands. You're closer where Santa comes from.
Yeah, true.
So,
he visits me. He visits me first.
When you talk to the people who are in the Canadian military, you know what the answer I get always? Why are we here? Why are we in the States? Why do we have to serve with you? And it's like, so where are you now? Ouch. Okay. So that's where
I could answer that question very easily for them. Number one, the United States is the one place in the world where we have literally every type of climate. We have swamp, we have desert, we have, plains we have, near Arctic land, and there goes Cleo again. Cleo's
Probably.
like, no more. Meanwhile, Bub has my box. The box is open. He has officially taken it. But anyway, we have every type of terrain here, and being able to train in just about anything, even mountainous regions, that makes all the difference in the world.
I was discussing the other day.
It was Cleo.
I was discussing the other day that the disparity of Washington State, right? How Washington State is not one state and shouldn't be thought of as one state because we're bisected by the Rockies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eastern Washington is desert, flatland, and plains. Western
That's
Washington,
Kansas.
Literally, Western Washington is where all the trees and the grunge music and the Seattle rain comes from.
Oh, I know, and home of the music project. Shout out to them because that is an amazing place.
But then on top of that is weird stuff like there's a rainforest up here. Not just a forest where it rains, an actual subpolar rainforest is extremely rare in Washington State.
Isn't that near Forks? Isn't that the peninsula?
Maybe. I've actually never been.
I haven't either, and my family was from there, so I totally understand.
Well, I'm in the Netherlands. Either it's dry or it's raining. That's about it.
But you're surrounded by water, so one wrong move and you're into the sea.
Yeah, I mean most of our country is below sea level, actually.
Last night there was a storm.
Very green, if you know what I mean.
Last night there was a storm. I had to pull the branch off of my porch this morning.
Sorry, guys. I hate to interrupt you, and I hate to interrupt everybody, but Cleo is death glaring me. So, hello from my familiar.
Again, Kitty says enough.
No. She's the center of attention. Stein knows this.
Oh yeah. While my familiar Timmy is just sleeping on my back.
Oh, Cleo's trying to find a spot as she is trying to make herself known.
When Timmy wants attention, he'll make it known, but he sleeps mostly during the day and either preferably on my stuff. I have my sports bag, which I use as just a everything bag, laying on the floor here somewhere, and he's just looks snuggly. I'll just curl up and snuggle up and good night.
She's trying to find her spot. What?
Oh yeah, of course.
Are they ignoring you?
And it's so it's really interesting the differences between America and Europe. We're both considered the West, the civilized West, even though looking at
Do not drag Texas into this.
Oh no, honey, that's I know. You have the U.S. and you have Texas. It's the same here. You have the Netherlands and you have Frisia. Even though it's technically it's one of our provinces, but don't tell them because they'll go red bad on your ass.
Well, let's face it. Of all the states, if there was in fact a succession, the Republic of Texas would just go back to being the Republic all by itself.
Yeah, they probably would. And
the only reason why I'm dragging Texas in is because my family's from Texas, so that's the reason why I dragged them in.
Hey, I have two kids living in Frisia, so if and I swear to God, if they could just not be a part of the Netherlands, they would. They already have their own language. They already have their own. They already have their own flag. They already have their own quote unquote culture, and they already don't consider themselves part of the Netherlands.
That's Texas because they're the Lone Star State.
Perfect example of my mother's awesome Wolfgar. My mom wrote 3 novels. I've got them around here somewhere. If I can find them, I will see about getting them published. It's called the Horse Rider series, and it is speculative science fiction about a future in which, due to economic descent, Texas goes back to free range because it's cheaper.
Oh, wow.
So it
Yeah.
sounds like
That's
somebody
pretty
had a little bit of a gift then, because
Oh,
that's how
Mom was
Texas is nowadays.
Mom was amazing.
Mom sounds like she was intuitively gifted
Mama was a
without
Rolling
realizing it.
Stone.
Here's a question I got for you, Faye.
Hmm.
In terms of intuitive ability,
Yes.
in your opinion, do you think women have it a little better than men, or do you think it applies equally and men just really haven't applied themselves much to it?
The thing is, women are very intuitive and they can tell. Men, I'm going to throw Stein in here because I love him dearly and I will throw him in and he's giving me the innocent look.
I mean, he's
Here
a man.
comes
The
the
thing
bus.
is, right? So with men, they're not in touch with it. They're all about their masculinity. They're not wanting to show it. And the thing is, like, I've noticed with Stein being with me, he's being able to open that door and say, hey, I do have that gift. Hey, I am intuitive. Whereas before with me, ew, this is not something I want to know. I do feel stuff. I do sense things. And that's where the thing is,
That
men
was
are
me.
afraid to
Sorry.
show it. That's the thing, is men are afraid to say, hey, I got a gift.
Well,
Or
Yeah,
I've
because
noticed some men, like my dad, I'm going to throw my dad in here. Some men are like, oh, that was a draft. It's cold in here. There's no spirits in here. There's no ghosts.
well,
There's
no,
no
it's
such thing as ghosts.
it's all
well,
your
we're being-
imagination.
that's like
Exactly.
we're enculturated not to accept it. I don't think that's the
Mhm.
same as not having the ability.
And that's the
'Cause
thing too, where a lot of females are open about it. With my gift, I can see and communicate with the other side. And I'm not afraid to admit it now that I'm with Stein, because it's like before I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be
Honey,
and John,
you
Well,
cut
I
out
would
there.
like to say welcome to Cozy Crone, who's stopping in for a sec while she gets ready to roll into town. So welcome, and I hope you have a great day in town. I know here in a few, like once the podcast ends, I gotta go into town myself. And shameless plug here because and here's the story. I was wearing my Moldavite, which many of you have seen it if you checked out like the High Notes videos or YouTube Shorts. It usually hangs right there with Mjolnir. It's a Moldavite with a Herkimer diamond set right behind it. I took off my shirt on Halloween because I was getting out of costume, and I found the Herkimer diamond was gone. It was there
Oh
that
shit!
morning. I don't know where I lost it. I have looked. I just don't know where I lost it. And it was like I took it. I didn't really take it hard. I was just like, okay, the training wheels have come off. So I'm talking with Marilyn over at the Healing Stone and Audubon.
1 second.
Take your time. So I talked with her, and I'm going to take it to her. I'm either going to have that Moldavite reset,
Little
or I'm
sister
going to
called.
have it.
Sorry about
A
that.
new
Did not
stone
mean
put
to leave
behind
you
it.
guys.
So we'll see how that goes.
You
And
guys hear me?
here we are.
you can.
Yeah, we can hear you, love.
And Rachel has entered the chat.
Dun,
Hey.
dun,
Welcome.
dun.
Rachel,
Guys, can you hear me okay?
There's her. There's her
can
bride
hear
to
you. I
be.
can hear you. Yeah. I wanted to take a moment to say congratulations on your engagement to Jim. We're all very, very happy for you.
Thank you. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I
We're already-
know you mentioned you were going to do some wedding planning a little later today. Nice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when is the big day?
Well, it's on the next eclipse.
Oh, nice.
Of course it is.
Of course.
Of course it is.
Of course. There's a
Hello, Mercury.
Oh, awesome. Yes. Hey ladies.
The ladies have finally entered.
The ladies have entered the chat.
Oh, there's Faye again. Let me pop her in there. Okay. There we go.
Sorry, guys. My sister called me. It was for the puppies. We need
Oh,
to give
purple.
Esty a bath. She's kind of musty.
Okay.
So, as what was I saying before my sister interrupted?
Well, you were saying a lot of things.
Shut up, Noggle Walker. I'm gonna kick your butt later. So as I was saying, I'm not afraid to talk about my gift anymore because, it's okay. And that's the thing too, where a lot of men don't want to admit it. And I haven't really come across guys who want to open about their gift. Like when I was talking to Stein about it, he's like, I don't want people to know that I have a gift, like very early in our relationship. It's very female energy, if that makes any sense. A lot of females talk about it more, and I think I'm going to drag my favorite show into this, and I think that's why I love Supernatural so much, is because the boys were able to talk about the gifts that they had, and I just wish more guys were able to open up, is all I'm saying.
And I mean, the thing is, like, even with me, I don't think I was afraid to admit that I had it. I think the problem was I had a bad experience with it, and the problem with that was that very first deck I ever owned. It was just a wrong choice for me, and
I remember you and I talking
had
about
no
that.
guidance, and people looking at this complete neophyte, this complete luddite coming into it, looking at it. Oh, he got Hermetic Tarot. This guy's serious. Holy crap! And
That was your first?
that was my first. And those cards,
Bro.
they're in black and white, and they are so jam-packed full of symbology that you have to know what you're doing. And no one told me, hey, you really probably should read some more before using this. And I just dived right into it, and it was horrible. And I think that's what made me afraid of it, was there really wasn't any guidance there. It's just
A
kind
lot
of
of guys don't want to have that guidance either.
I don't.
Well,
Well,
that's
I don't know
why
that they don't want to, but I don't know any who just even have it or are aware of it. And where do you go for it other than some like weird occult group or someone who's more interested in manipulating you rather than having your gifts flow? I think that's a huge factor.
And I think that's why it was so hard, because like when I go to a local metaphysical store here, I was talking about my gifts and how like all of a sudden they're back after being attuned by one of my coworkers, because her and I talk about Reiki all the time. She helped me attune, and then all of a sudden my gifts are coming back full force, because like for the longest time they were suppressed because I was on ADD medication and it suppressed me hardcore. And I remember I went into a store here and I was talking about how I'm also into the stuff again. And this guy comes in shyly and he's just like, well, you're not the only one who has these gifts. And, he's very shy about it. And it's like, that's the thing where it's so hard, is guys are shy to talk about it. What's so shy about admitting that you can see and talk to dead people? I mean, yeah, it looks like you're crazy. It does, but it's not like TV portrays it to be.
Like you'll get those.
We're meant to
you'll
be.
Get those nice long sleeve pajamas.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think the expectation is that we're supposed to be a little more coldly logical and rational rather than, I mean, granted, I do give people advice all the time, but I just don't tell them where it comes from. And I mean, there are times where people hit me up and say, hey, can you do a reading? And it's like right there on the spot. It's the reason I always carry a deck. So, I mean, I'm prepared for that kind of thing, and I don't mind that people know. Now, if I were living back where I used to live, that's not something I'm going to readily admit, obviously, because there were some bad experiences there too. Like, Dad, the pastor, banging on my door like he was the police at like noon, and I'm trying to sleep because I got a night job. That was not a good place to be.
Well, that's why for a summer, I got into ghost hunting, which sounds ridiculous, but hear me out. I had some friends who watched Ghost Adventurers and Ghost Hunters, and they're like, hey, we can do this. Let's go do this. And so they started doing ghost hunting with a friend of mine who was a Religions of the World major, right? And he was their spiritual perspective guy, right?
Mhm.
He had to return to Texas, so they were now down a man. And I'm like, well, I'm different because I'm a pagan, but I can help you out with this. And they're like, cool. The thing is that while I have beliefs, I am also, in terms of practical daily living, I'm a man of modernity. I don't believe everything just because I see it. I am half a skeptic. I credit the potential, but I want objective proofs. Because when you have to go, well, I believe it was a ghost. It's like you can believe it, but that's not what you can show other people as practical.
Right.
The thing was that two things found were one, various places didn't want to admit they had a ghost problem, or that they had energies, because they actively didn't want to talk about it, even though it was popular lore that they did. Right. So
They
there's
don't want to admit it because the thing is, if they admit it, then more people flock.
Right, but you'd think that would be business and that would be good for the place, but there's
It's
no
not.
perspectives, and there's a certain amount of enculturated shame. It's like, oh no, something bad happened here. Don't talk about it.
Well, the thing
So
that
he
I
were-
find interesting is
the
like
other-
the places here up in the capital city of where I live. Rachel can attest to this. Is that there's a place that is flocked by demon activity, like flocked. And my friend who lives up there can attest to it because he says that there's a lot of ODs over there. There's a lot of murders that happen over there. There's a lot of activity, and it was on ghost adventures. And I think that's another reason why I even now, kind of getting back into my gift, hate that show. Because
Ghost Adventures is garbage.
they antagonize the spirits. Of course, okay, let's antagonize the spirit. Oh, it threw something. Automatically, it must be a demon.
Well, the reason that I
so
got out.
That's a little short-sighted.
Well, the reason I got out of the ghost hunting thing that summer was because my friends were not very scientific about it. And in science, the most basic fundamental scientific method, you try to disprove a thesis rather than prove it, right? So I was not coming at it from okay, let's confront the spirit, and then let's make the spirit do a thing, and then let's prove the spirit's there. I was like, okay, we have perceived something. It seems pretty weird. Let's find every practical thing that it possibly could be that it's not supernatural, right? But they wanted to do what the shows did. They wanted to follow, and Ghost Adventures is specifically important because whereas Taps on Ghost Hunters at least pretends or pretended for a time at scientific discernment, Ghost Adventures was the cash in. It was the more popular, sexy copy that had the fakery, right? Yeah. We're gonna go into this place, bro, and we're gonna totally do these ghost hunts. It's gonna be amazing. We're
a one-man crew. We only have this person and this person on camera, and nothing else.
Right, that stuff
sure
not only gives bad information, but yeah, it does create or agitate negative resonances. Because I'm one of those people. I'll tell you, and I feel free to disagree. We don't have to agree. That's fine. I don't actually believe in the idea of demons. Not that there aren't powerful presences or resonances, right? There absolutely are, right? But if you do enough research into the classical concept of demon, going back to the Gis Loci and the Jinn, it's not the Judeo-Christian otherworldly entity that hates you. There is nothing otherworldly. Everything is part of this world. It's just
they don't want to be messed with.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, with those entities, they don't want to be messed with. They don't.
But the thing is that when you interact with them, more often than not, it's your energy which defines them. So if you go to a place and you say there's negative energy here, there's antagonistic energy here, there's a living, active, negative energy that's going to hurt me here, you're making it happen with your will. That's magic. That's the same
right,
Yes,
practice.
we do that with normal situations too. When we walk into a room and decide everyone here is hostile, everyone there will be hostile. So
Right.
it
Yeah.
works the same way. The only difference is that there's, in practicing a more scientific method, you're actually forgetting that these are relationships, that these are entities that you can relate to. You know, they're not here to be manipulated or, you know, asked for favors. Would you knock on your neighbor's door and be like, all right, I've trapped you in your house. Now you have to do stuff for me? Like, no, you're going to piss somebody off.
I'm not a trained dog,
Time.
okay? I can't come on command.
Hold on. You just knocked on my door and I opened it. I'm not trapped anywhere.
Right.
See,
Exactly.
I'm
asked my-
incorporeal. I'll go through this wall.
I asked my mom once, the big one, right? I asked my mom, hey mom, you know, ghosts. Obviously, it's like, you know, we're the dinosaur ghosts. Well, they're so ancient that energy is past. Okay, cool. So, like, where's all the medieval ghosts? It's like, well, not really outside of Europe, obviously, because, you know, castles and whatnot. Okay. Like, what about the camps? And we all know the camps I'm talking about.
Yes.
And my mom said, oh, those are not haunted. And she's like, I'm like, what do you mean?
They are haunted.
Well, let me clarify. They said, what do you mean? Of course they're haunted. They all that horrible stuff. I mean, she's like, yes. And there is very negative energy there. You can feel it. But there has been so much will working, so much effort to heal from so many people. So much energy has been put into both recognizing and, you know, the assertion never again, that many of those unfortunates are settled. Many of them have moved on. There's not as much negativity. It's not a sucking tar pit as you might think. And I was like, oh, yeah. Just an example of my mom being wise and witchy. You know?
Love it. And that's the thing too, where it's like, you know, being raised around religious stuff. I was a granddaughter of two prominent people in the church. And, you know, one side was completely okay with certain things. The other, hell no. The moment you even spoke of anything that was out of their context, your granddaughter's going to burn in hell. I just sneezed. Yeah, you sneezed. You're going to burn in hell.
Satan
the other thing-
sneezes upon you.
The other thing that blew my mind was I was in football. I was a tomboy. I was, lesser terms, I was a lesbian in high school. I was very butchy, I guess you could say. And I wore all black to church one day. I didn't give two fucks what I was wearing. I was wearing shorts. I was in black. My makeup was dark. My hair was emo-fied. I didn't care. And my grandparents were, you know, dying. They were praying for me the whole time I was with them that day. Because, like, something happened to their granddaughter. Oh, my God. And I remember...
You gotta stop listening to that rock and roll music backwards.
Totally. So I remember
I'll go for you.
being there, and because of the way that I was dressed, the moment that I stepped into that area, the preacher pointed me out while I was sitting with my grandparents and said, this is an example of when the teenagers go amok. She is going to burn in hell.
Wow.
Wait a minute. You literally
Pointed
went
me
out
out.
you did?
Yeah, he pointed me out and said I was going to burn in hell. And I stood up. My grandparents were, you know, praying about it, and their eyes were closed, thank God. And most of the elders their eyes were closed, thank God. But I literally stood up and I flipped everyone off. And I walked out. because it's like
I will share that music story for later, but that's a fun one.
but it was just like, it was just that sheer fact, I was who I was. And, my grandmother, I know my grandmother was intuitive like I was, because a lot of the females in my family are intuitive. And if I could have seen the look on her face, I think I would have died that day, because I think she was death glaring me because I was walking out of the church.
Well,
But
on top of that, I think with that kind of attitude that got presented that day, I know I've run into it myself down south.
mhm.
What it is these people are seeing you do something that they cannot do, or they
Yes, it
perceive
was
that
cut
they
off
cannot do it,
jeans. It was
and so
cut off
they have to.
jeans
And
with my
it makes them
Vans
feel
and makeup.
awful about it, and
hmm
they have to find some way of justifying being a completely shit person because they're so miserable.
Oh,
I
if
mean,
you guys were in
what's going
that
on today?
church,
It's the same thing with a different people on.
I can swear to you guys, if all of you went to church with me that day, you guys would have been just like cheering me on because I was, being, you know,
You
disruptive.
only brought two middle fingers, so you're all going to have to share.
I mean,
No,
good for
That
I think
was
one
the
you.
of
thing that was so frustrating, because at that time in my life, I was told I had to wear a skirt or a dress or heels. Stein can tell you firsthand, I am the last person you will catch in either of those,
Yep.
because I can't walk in heels to save my life. I can't. I am the least feminine person I know. Will I wear
Heels
makeup?
aren't feminine.
Oh, I know.
Just
I know.
saying.
I know. I know. I'm the least feminine person you know. Yes, do I do my nails? Yes, once in a while. Do I do my makeup? Yes, but only for work. Do I do my hair? Yes, only for work. But that's the thing too, where it's like, going back to the gift. I'm very ADD if you guys haven't noticed.
You're
Sorry.
not.
No, no, no.
You're
Can like
excellent.
it's been close to 3 years now. I can't say if I've really noticed. I don't know what you're
Shut
talking
up,
about,
Fox. I'm gonna kick your ass later.
love. I know
But
you
getting
will.
back to the thing too, where with the gift is, I think men need to have that support, because I've been
Mhm.
supportive with Stein and him coming into his gift, and I've helped him, and I've helped him realize that he does have one, and he's not afraid to say it anymore. And
Yeah.
I think that's where, you know, men need that support. They don't have it with other men. Like, let's say Raven wasn't gifted and Stein came to Raven and said, "Hey, I have this gift." Men
Personally,
would
I would want
support
to see.
that.
I'd be like, yeah, you got to show me this because this is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm
There's going
using
to
you
be
as an
several different
example. You're not supposed
reactions.
to agree with me, Raven.
I can't help
Well,
it.
it depends on
This
where
is
you
where I
are.
come from, but like I taught. I know Moots has it,
Mm-hmm.
and she wanted to hone it. Now it took me 6 months to get off my ass and start actually getting into the cards again. And I don't know how long I was into it before her sister, who was my boss, asked me, "Hey, is it cool if I give her your phone number?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." We start talking. She's into it herself. She passed me. I mean, like I got her started, and she just blew past me. She took it and ran with it. It was like, in my opinion, it was amazing. I'm happy as a pig in shit for her because she has done so well with hers that at one point she started doing reversals in her tarot, and I was like, why am I not doing that? So now she's motivated me to move past some of my own limitations. And I gotta say, like, just like have watching her develop as fast as she did was one of the things. Like I'm super proud of her. She's really done well for herself.
Well, I'm just using you as an example, Raven. You weren't supposed to go with that. Love you, but you weren't supposed to go with that.
Don't take it seriously.
Take it seriously, goddammit. But I think that's where, like, if a guy has a female counterpart who they work with, it helps bring them with the confidence that they need. Because with another male, if they come to a male, I'm not going to use Raven because we just saw what happened. If, let's say
Take it and
Stein
go.
goes to his brother. We'll use his brother because his brother's a better analogy, because God love my brother-in-law, but we'll get to that. Let's say Stein goes to his brother and says, hey, I'm starting to sense and feel and talk and see dead people. Let's just say that Stein has my gift and he goes to his brother. His
He'd
brother would be
refer me
like,
to a psychiatrist.
hey,
Yeah.
bro, here's my psychiatrist
Does your
number. Let's
your
get you on the
psychiatrist
clear
look
path to
similar
getting
to Bruce
healthy again.
Willis? Do you see dead people all the time?
Me?
No, I was asking if Stein.
I was like, wait, what?
I was asking if Stein was meeting with Bruce Willis to discuss all the dead people he's.
But that's the thing too, where his brother would be like, here's my
Raven is the bold one
psychiatrist
here.
number, slide it across the table and say, let's get you healthy again, bro, okay? Because I'm
Have
worried
you
about
taken
you.
your meds today? I'm not on meds. Maybe you should be.
And for some reason, just for a bit of humor, I'm reminded of that Ask a Ninja segment where he gets the question, why haven't you killed me yet? And he goes, someone needs to watch The Sixth Sense again, Bruce Willis.
But that's the thing too, where it's like Stein was talking to me about his gift and how he feels about it and like what, how he feels and all of that. Instead of me telling him he's completely nutso, which given 99% of the time he is, but instead of telling him he's crazy, I listen to him and he's able to now talk about it. And I think that's why, masculine and feminine energies, when they work together and they work together correctly, you're able to embrace each other and embrace each other's gifts. And I think that's why with me, when I first told Stein, hey, I can talk and speak to dead people, I thought he was going to be like, oh God, she's crazy. Oh my God, she's crazy. Get me out of here.
You are. It's one of the reasons why I love you.
Fox, I'm going to kick your ass later. I am going to kick your ass later. But instead of him telling me that I am crazy and, I shouldn't be seeing that stuff, I shouldn't be saying that stuff, he embraced me and told me it's okay. And that's why with me having my gift come back to me at full force now, all of a sudden, it's like I tell him, and the first words out of his mouth is, okay, what can I do to help you?
Yeah, you struggled with it at like the first couple of days, first couple of weeks. Like you really struggled with it.
I did. And that's where, even with Samhain, happy Samhain, everyone, belated. But when I was having those problems at my brother's house and I was able to text Stein and say, hey, the energies here are heavy, even though this is a newer home, the energies are heavy. He's like, what can I do to help you? He had to sleep, but he stayed up to help me feel these emotions that I was feeling. And when I was okay, he went to bed. And I think that's why having somebody support you, masculine or feminine, it's nice to have that, and I'm very thankful to have the partner that I do, is because he's able to help me channel it and keep it, what's the word I'm looking for, hun? In check.
Yeah.
You keep me in check.
And the thing is too that you like help me be more in touch with my emotions, with my more emotional side. And like on the other hand, I help you sometimes with trying to see it more rationally, because I mean, I don't know how bad it is if I'm the voice of reason, Um, but
You doing?
I mean, sometimes
No.
I know. No, but she's like, I mean, we say that all the time to each other. She's the emotional one. I'm the rational one, and but we do help each other with that. Like I said, she helps me get in touch with my emotions more. Tells me it's okay to show them, even though I still struggle with it. But I guess you never stop learning. And sometimes when she gets overwhelmed by emotions, I am still able to look at it from a rational perspective and like try and calm her down in that way.
And that's the thing too, where it's like, you know, I am very thankful for the gods and our ancestors for bringing us together, because the more him and I are together, the more we realize that we are meant for each other. And that's the funny thing too, because when I was 18 years old, I got hurt playing football. And this is where it's going to kind of send chills up people's spines. But Stein was about 15 or 16 at the time, and he injured his same knee, the
I
exact
was
same knee
I
that
was
I.
I was a bit younger, but we did like we have a lot of the same injuries even. Yeah.
And
Like I
that's
don't
where it's like, then we talk about, such and such happened. Wait, are you kidding me? Like, we have so many synchronicities before each other and after each other that it blows my mind. Like what was it when we first started dating? He was at a, um, what do you guys call it over there? Beach club?
Yeah.
He was at a beach club, and
Oh,
one of
right.
the
Yeah.
chefs there, she was from where I'm from.
Yep.
And what she's known here for, she talked to Stein about. She was really well known for her pupusas. I know that sounds so gross, but they're actually really good. She was really well known here for them. And the first words out of her mouth to Stein was, "Yeah, I had a business, in such and such Colorado, and they really took off, and we were really well known for them, but I needed a new beginning, and I needed to find myself again." And Lord and behold, she worked with Stein. And that's the thing too, where it's like our lives are so much. Hi, familiar. Welcome back.
Round two.
That
Blue.
the moment I say Stein's name, she comes running. So just so you guys know, because that's his girl. I'm not his girl. That's his girl.
Yeah.
Hi. Are you telling the world that you're Stein's girl?
Look, the real proof of failure is if it magically appears at Stein's house without having crossed the intervening water, then you know.
But that's the thing too, where it's like, I didn't believe in soulmates. I didn't believe that you have one person that you're meant to be with. I never believed in that stuff. And day after day, second after second, hour after hour, I am reminded, ever since Stein came into my life, that it is a real thing. And every day I thank the gods and I thank our ancestors for bringing us together. And
They've been scheming for a while to get us here.
oh gosh, Granddaddy, oh my gosh, Granddaddy has been scheming from the very beginning.
Yeah, I'd still like my keys back though.
No.
You curse way too much for his liking.
I know I do. I know I do.
Oh,
God damn it.
But that's the thing too, where it's like, I didn't believe in that stuff. I was that person who didn't believe in it, and Stein believed in it. He's the one who believed in soulmates. He believed that, you do have that one person.
I was still wanting to believe, although especially
But you were
after
more so than
my-
I was, honey. You were more so than I was.
Yeah, okay, but like especially after my last relationship, my dear ex who I've just seen in court again.
Who's stalking us? Yay, ghost stalkers!
Yeah, she's actually stalking our Minds profile.
Get alive.
She doesn't have one. That's exactly why. Um, but I was treated very badly. A very toxic relationship. Um, one tip for all the dudes: don't stick your dick in crazy. Um,
We all
and
know
espe-
that once time.
and
Because I had done that.
and especially don't have kids with it. That makes it even worse.
I did too, but mine is not
Yeah,
present.
no, I know. Mine still is, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, like I at the beginning of like phase and my relationship, like I wasn't really looking for anything. I was just, whatever comes my way. If it's just
You weren't looking for crazy, but crazy found you.
yeah, basically, but good crazy, good crazy. I don't want to get my ass kicked again. Um,
Trust me, it's gonna happen regardless of what happens after this conversation or not.
And
yeah, I
I'm
know.
probably
That's
going to
why
witness it later on.
I'm
I'm
staying
gonna
seated.
go.
You guys want popcorn to the show? Okay, you guys can
No,
watch it.
like
I don't need
I
to see
was,
that.
I was just looking for whatever came my way. If it was just for the night, it was just for the night. We'll have fun, and I'll give you some cab fare, and guess we'll talk. Um, if it's for longer, it's for longer. That's fine. And then I met Faye, and it's like especially the first like 3 days was it? The first day that we got to talk, we literally talked through the night. I mean, with
Your
an
night,
8 hour time.
honey. Your night.
Yeah, I was gonna say like with an 8 hour time difference for me, it's not that hard to talk through the night. But like eventually, it was what was it like 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and I was like, "Yo, I love talking to you. I absolutely love this, enjoy this, all of that. But it's 6 a.m. I gotta go to sleep. I gotta go to bed. I got stuff to do tomorrow. I'm so sorry." And like, of course, after the first conversation, and like you hit it off and whatever, it's like, oh God, is she gonna be there tomorrow? And she
Love you
was.
too, person. Love you too. Sorry, there was a chat.
And third day she was there too, and that turned into a week and into a month and into a year, and now we're like in our third year. Like May will be 3 years.
And man, I'm telling you, this relationship has really opened my eyes to a lot of things. We're very open about it, and we've told people we've had hell. We went through literal hell last
Yeah,
year. We hit a
yeah.
very dark period thanks to the crazy ex. We know she's probably going to listen to this one because I'm here.
Hey, as
Um,
long as she gives it a thumbs up and a comment and subscribes and whatever, like,
go
if
on.
she,
Like, share, subscribe.
yeah, no, exactly. I mean,
Actually,
Win
no,
win.
I should warn her, delicately tap that like button. No need to get all smashy with it. Remember, you break it, you bought it. Be sure to share with you.
Be sure to share too,
No,
Char. We know
exactly.
you're listening to this. We know you're
I mean,
listening.
like, hey, if she's gonna stalk us anyway, like, at least interact. At
Yeah.
least you can do.
Get in that chat.
You guys can totally share this in court too, and we don't care at this point. Like, share, subscribe, do
2.5
whatever.
hours of us just like going on about this until we get to the part where she jumps in.
Just see her name pop up all of a sudden. It's like, oh, hey, wow, we didn't expect you to actually comment.
The preferred podcast of obsessed people everywhere.
But that's the thing too, where it's like this has really opened my eyes, and we went through hell last year.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
sorry, hold on, my little Vikings back here. One moment, please.
Sure.
I'll pick up from here, I guess. I
Actually,
made some.
one thing I did want to bring up, because we're getting
Back.
close to time here, and I've gone a half. I will be going a half hour over what I originally intended. But there's one thing that I wanted to bring up, and um, not a shameless plug because I'm still working on it. It hasn't been released yet, but Wretched is the New Black is coming out. That's going to be like the 1970s, 1980s women in prison exploitation film kind of thing. Here's one thing I did want to bring up because I know there are probably going to be more women than men playing this, honestly. And one of the things that I wondered was, and anyone can jump in on this question, with the Shield Maidens group being a thing now,
Yes.
what I really wanted to know was in just about anything. I've seen a lot of people say that women don't have a place or representation in this thing or that thing, whatever that may be, hobbies, culture, gaming, movies, books, whatever. Where do you think that women haven't gone and haven't gone by choice, and why?
Space. I'm sorry.
Can you rephrase that so a female can actually answer, Raven?
I understood.
Well, you're in touch with your masculine side, okay, Rachel?
I got the question.
I didn't. I'm kind of
I was
paying
playing
attention
with
to the
stereotypes,
too.
and it wasn't me. I didn't do that.
No, that's a really good question. That's a really good question. I'd have to think about that because I don't. When people are like, "There's not enough representation," I'm like, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, if you want to be somewhere, you go there. If you want to be represented, you have to step up. You have to do it."
Yeah.
It's the society is ridiculous. If you want more stories about women, tell stories about women. Women tell stories about women. Like, don't
Oh, we
count on
gossip
someone
about each other all
else
the
to
time,
do it.
Rachel. Don't even deny it. We gossip.
It's been positive. We have nice stories from women.
And going to your point, Rachel, that was one of the things when I listened to Chuck Palahniuk's interview on Rogan a couple of years ago, and he was saying, like when he wrote Fight Club, there weren't any stories for men. What it was you had Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants or something, or Sex in the City, something like that. Men
It's
really
funny you
have
mentioned that
that
movie. That
there,
was a good one.
and he wrote Fight Club, which of course, like I said, that and Strangeland were examples of these characters going to extremes, and even Joe pointed that out. But it's like, when you go there, is it because you don't see something, or you see a little hole that needs to be just kind of filled, or or maybe you just have a story that needs to be told.
Yeah, I would almost, as you're saying that, I think maybe one of the areas that women haven't gone in the big media and all that stuff is traditional roles and really killing it. Because there's so many, these feminists who hate traditional roles. There's a lot of stuff that really despises the core of what feminine energy is and what its function is and how it operates, and even attempts at like witchcraft and stuff tends to lean really cheesy because there's a lack of understanding of how it operates. I'm sorry, I didn't like Hocus Pocus. I thought it was like, meh. I was
Don't drag
thinking,
my movie into this, or I will kick your butt too, Rachel.
you can try.
I will.
I love you. I was reading, much different books, so
Can
I've been
I
spoiled.
provide a counterpoint? I have to use cultural flotsam, so I apologize, but I think it's pertinent. In the 90s, I was a young man, and we had local regular television, so we're watching sitcoms on rerun, right? And
Sorry, my
so,
familiar almost made me lose my phone. I am so sorry. Continue.
so my mom liked to watch Murphy Brown, sort of classic Mary Tyler Moore style feminist women got it going on show job thing. And she, of course, wanted to be a mother, and she was raising a child, and an interesting story, good fiction. But then my mom also watched Roseanne, Race Under Fire, and Home Improvement. right?
Did she
And
watch Reba too?
yes, she did.
That was a
Um,
cult favorite
the,
in
the
this
thing is that
family.
as a young man, as a growing man, there was an element that I noticed that I didn't like, even though I enjoyed these shows. Grace Under Fire in particular was really great for showing the egalitarian nature of sex, because Grace could play hard with the boys, but was solidly a woman and did not need to be a gentle soul or a delicate flower. The thing that I saw that I didn't like, though, such as in Home Improvement, was this recitation and reassertion that men are knuckle dragging idiots who need women to save them. And women do this not by building them, not by supporting them, not by sharing and carrying the load because we're all in it together as a family unit, right? But rather by being cloying, hen pecking, nasty, nagging, and really dragging people down. The example, the meta example, and I understand why the character is this way because it's a very specific interpretation on American culture, is Peggy Hill. Peggy Hill is
Oh,
an awful woman. She's a fundamentally awful woman who always makes things harder for her man, right? But the expectation is he'll bail her out because he's the husband and it's the right thing to do, right? Now, I'm not asserting women the problem. That's not at all. It's depictions in media that are neither balanced nor even, favoring certain perspectives. And the perspective is that women are wise, which of course they are, right? And that men are helpless without a woman, and that men do not have the same sort of practical or applicable knowledge. Women can do anything, can attain anything, but men necessitate a woman in order to be men, right? And then that's compounded by this idea that uh, the woman's wisdom is such that you have to listen no matter what, even if it's a bad idea, because they're always right, you're always wrong, because you're a dude. And it's like, what is doing to our young men, and more importantly, relative to your comments, what's it doing to our young women that they're thinking that wisdom and knowledge that have to be learned through life is now an innate facet of their being? And I'm not kidding. I have met many women, as a for instance, who think that the ability to cook, like just cooking food, is
I can't
genetic.
cook. I can't cook.
But I've met women who think it's genetic. I kid you not, I had a housemate who tried to use chia seeds as a quote leavening agent because we didn't have any baking soda. And I was like, based on what? Where did you learn this? It's like, it just seemed reasonable to me. It's like, that's not how food works. There are these things called cookbooks. You open them like this. They have all the instructions inside.
I still can't even
I'm all
cook with
for
those.
experimenting.
They were not very good
That's the
muffins.
fun of cooking.
Oh, 10 years as a cook, this just pains me to hear.
I can see.
That's why you're the cook in the family, honey.
To get to the
Yeah.
point, our
But
media
I think-
misrepresents
oh, sorry.
both genders in very negative ways, but also very different ways that teaches different lessons, and the lessons are not.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's another reason why when Rachel mentioned that, we need to have a more feminine presence. And that's why I didn't really necessarily say anything or note her on it at that time, because I wanted to meditate on this. I wanted to think about this. I was thinking, do we really want to do this? And then the other reason why it happened the way it did is Stein and I were a part of a group on Facebook that was called HOH.
Heathens and Honor, I've talked about it before. Yeah.
And it was very masculine based. It was very sausage fest based.
Yeah.
And I was like, do I really want to be the flu who's in the back, who's not going to say anything, who's not going to do anything? Because that's the thing too, where Brandon, who was the Jarl of HOH, his
Quote
wife,
unquote.
who didn't really say anything. She only spoke up when someone was threatening her Jarl, her husband. And I really thought about it, and I was like, do I really want to be that Fru who doesn't say anything, who doesn't listen to her females, who doesn't, that came out wrong, who doesn't listen to her female counterparts, who doesn't listen to her female friends? And then that's why I didn't say anything, Rachel. I loved your idea, by the way. This is your fruition. I wanted to include us females, and that's where I want more involvement from our females, because the thing is, Rachel has a point. You know, I wanted to have a place, well, she did too, where we can be open about, like I said early in the conversation, about where we can vent about our men, where the men aren't like, hey, I didn't do that. You know, I wanted somewhere where her and I and all the other females can say, God, Stein really pissed me off this morning. And I can talk about it where he's not present, and he doesn't have to have all his Sausage Fest followers saying, why are you throwing him out there like that? You know, I wanted somewhere where I can vent about Stein and get advice from females without the males like, why are you throwing the Ural in this? He didn't do anything.
I mean, you do regardless, but
yeah, but I wanted somewhere where I can have female input where the guys aren't like, don't throw him in this. He didn't do anything wrong. Were you part of our conversation this morning? Well, no. Then how do you know? I just know because I'm a man. So that's where it's like, I really thought about this and really wanted somewhere where Rachel and I can, you know, help women be able to talk about everything that is feminine related. And that's where, you know,
and
Rachel,
not just that, but drawing a little more participation in the group overall. Which
exactly.
I think is super important. Instead of just like staying silent in the background because you're not exactly sure what to do. This is a place to break off, huddle, and then come back in with your approach. And I think it makes perfect sense personally.
And that's where, like, too, I want my females to. God, this sounds so wrong. Me saying my females.
It's okay.
I want my girls to be able to talk. You know, and that's the thing too, where I've even noticed recently, it's kind of cricket silence because, you know, us females don't know how to talk to each other. And that's where I want to bring that back, because I want myself to be able to vent about Stein without Stein having, oh, I didn't do that. Or
even to give each other advice.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, let's say Rachel's going through hand fasting questions. She doesn't need all the Sausage Fest answers of, you should do it this way, you should do it this way. You know, it's nice to be able to have that calming energy saying, hey, this popped in my head. Maybe you should include this. Because, like, she was asking, you know, can I throw this out there, Rachel?
A little, sure.
With her, she was asking, what should I include? And I'm not going to say much because that's her thing, but what should I include? And I was like, hey, I had this vision of this in my head. And, you know, she liked the idea. That's where I want females to be able to talk to each other about this. Because the thing is, us girls have been planning our weddings for ever and a day.
Yeah.
And that's where we want to be. I want it to be that calming, motherly, nurturing place where you can talk about anything and be able to open up. Because there's things on there that I want girls to be able to talk about without the Sausage Fest. Am I right, Rachel? Where we just want to be able to have that where it's the calming energies.
They're very different conversations, even when they're about the same subject, because the energies handle things very differently. So it is really nice to be around other women who it's like you don't necessarily have to accept the advice, but it is sometimes a lot easier to explore thought without trying to necessarily repair it, because we're not quite ready to repair something sometimes, you know. And that's
Guys are
something I
all
love
about being
about the
Mr. Fix
masculine.
It.
Yeah, I know that I can approach, you know, Jim or any man and be like, I need this to happen now, and they'll be like, on it. I love that, because I've already stewed and thought about what I need to happen, and sometimes it takes being around other women to understand that myself, because we're all doing that. We're all sitting here like, okay, well, I have this thought and this thought and this thought and this thought. How do I weave them together into a coherent,
Well, yeah,
thing?
and that's like the thing too, where I wanted somewhere where I can talk about, sorry, men, really sorry, but talking about our yoni magic and sticking
Sacred
crystals
stuff.
up our yonis, I want to be able to have that place where we can talk about that, where the guys aren't like, why would you stick a crystal up your yoni? That's disgusting, I wanted somewhere where we could talk about that, where us girls can talk about that, like, hey, what crystal shall I use for X? Well, instead of the guys saying, why do you want a crystal for that then? I want somewhere.
Anyone who says that putting a crystal on a certain part of your anatomy is gross, but also watches porn about women using dildos is a hypocrite. Just saying.
I know, but I'm just saying I wanted that place, and that's where this was initially Rachel's idea. I don't want to take away from Rachel's idea, because this was her. This was her, and that's where, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have meditated on this. I wouldn't have had a cup of tea with my familiar. So, Rachel, I do thank you for this idea, because this was you, honey. This was all you.
Thank you. And I really appreciate that you took the time to meditate on it and to really think about it and sit with your familiar and tap into yourself and your powers and really decide what to do. I appreciate that, and I love you.
And I love you too, sweetheart. And that's where, I wanted someone that I can talk to. I don't have female friends. And Rachel can tell you this. I don't have female friends. I don't.
Hard.
No, it's okay, honey. I don't relate to females. I don't have that feminine energy. And that's where, when Rachel said, hey, we should really have a group where we can all talk amongst us females. And that's where I feel we need to talk more in there, because the thing is, I know a lot of us are shy, but there's nothing to be shy about in that group, because the thing is, I did change the rules a little bit, so there is more involvement from the females.
Yeah, it'll happen, and those conversations will happen organically.
I think a lot of us are shy. I think that's the thing.
Well, a lot of us, yeah, we're just meeting. I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know a lot of the women in the tribe. There's so many people with different, profile pictures. I mean, I don't even have my face on there, so I can't always tell who's who. So I mean, it's going to take some time to even just get to know each other.
And I think that's where I really do want people to understand this isn't Sausage Fest being invited in. I want this strictly for females, because in order for us females to be strong, we need to come together and talk. I wanted to kind of do what the Native Americans did, where once a month they came together, they ate, drank, and sang song together for a week. I wanted to kind of bring that together again, where, we do drink our tea or drink our coffee, because Stein's a drinker of a coffee, so I have to include that. where we all drink tea together, break cake together, and laugh and cry about the little things in life, where we don't have that sausage fest.
Well, and I think we'll be a lot stronger too to engage alongside with the men, because that was one thing that got me is conversations happening about women, but no women are speaking up about themselves. It's all men talking about women and how we should be. And no, we can tell you how we can be.
Yeah, and I tell Stein that every day.
You know, have opinions and learn these things together. But it does take, you know, strong feminine voices to even be open and entertain those ideas without just shooting them down. Like, okay, I can see why men might desire this. Let's talk about that. You know, why this may or may not work. You know, being willing to explore those thoughts rather than just like butting heads, because that's what society and that's what those who think they have power initially are trying to do, is to have us continue to butt heads. So, you know, it just takes being strong enough to, you know, and not being afraid to engage in the conversation and having each other's back, you know, having other females say, yeah, I hear you, you know, let's continue to have this.
And even though this is like a separate thing, it really does contribute to a real Ingu's moment where the bonds only become stronger. You know, there's just breaking away for a minute to come back with a good approach. And, you know, when the approach is right, it just makes sense and everybody comes together. But we are a little over time here. So anybody with final thoughts before we wrap up?
Please join the female group. Please. We just need more feminine energy in there.
Definitely.
Don't be afraid to. I mean, just come and be. And I think that's the thing where I'm strong enough that I go to Stein. I'm like, hey, you know, this is what I feel like we need to talk about within ourselves. But we need that female presence, because there are going to be times where I don't want to talk to Stein about my period. You know, poor guy has to deal with it almost on a monthly basis.
I mean, ladies have ladies' issues.
Exactly.
And,
and I don't want to talk to Stein about that.
They don't need to discuss with. There are just some things that, you know, men and women just won't discuss with each other, and it's for good reason, because sometimes males need a male perspective on things. Women need women's perspective on things. That is perfectly natural.
Hey, I don't know what it's like to bleed down there for a week straight. I'd be concerned if I were, you know?
Same.
Yeah. And you guys, I think that's where I wanted to have that, because I want to be able to say, hey, Rachel, I've noticed this about my period. Where Stein would be like, go to the doctor?
Talk to your mom, talk to your sis, talk to my mom.
An obstetrician.
Talk to an OBGYN about this? Like, that's where I wanted to be able to then go to Rachel and be like, hey, Rachel, I've kind of noticed X, Y, and Z about my menstrual cycle. And she's not going to like jump at me and be like, go to the doctor. I mean, yeah, she's going to say, she'll say, you know, go to the doctor. But, well, did you notice this with it? Because, you know, she is a female, so she understands the feminine part more than Stein. Because, you know, I do love Stein. I do. He knows this. But I don't want to sit there and talk about that for the full week that I'm on my cycle. Like, hey, hun, I kind of woke up and I noticed this about my menstrual this morning. First off, ew. Second off,
you also don't want to. I'm sorry.
Well, and it's like, second off, why are you telling me? And third off, talk to your mom or your doctor.
Yeah, I was gonna say you also don't want to be in that situation where they feel comfortable enough. They think they can talk to you about it at like any time, and you just don't want to deal. They're like, "Hey, honey," and you're like,
exactly.
Channeling your inner exorcist.
Where am I going to find an exorcist on a Saturday?
Oh no, I'll just I'll just sit in the corner of the room somewhere, just throwing chocolate at her, just.
Walking
power
back
of
forth and crying.
compelled you.
And that's the thing too, where it's like that's another reason why I wanted to have Josh's new wife as an admin too, because I feel we need to have that duality to the point where it's equal. Because there for the longest time it was only me and Rachel.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was hard being, an admin with. I'm not saying it's hard being an admin with Rachel. I'm not. But I wanted to have it equal because then I can say, hey, girls. And that's why I have the lady admin group because it's like, hey, did you notice that so and so was. I gotta throw our funny rule out there, but hey, did you notice so and so was having Zeus like tendencies with Stein?
Another set of eyes.
Like, did you notice this? Or am I crazy? Because, like, the thing is, if I go to Stein and be like, babe, did you know so and so was being Zeus like with you? No. What makes you say that? That was a innocent banter. For fuck's sake, no, it was not. So that's why I wanted to have another set of eyes as a female saying, hey, did you notice so and so was being a little too friendly with Josh? Or a little too friendly with Stein?
If they get too friendly with Josh, Sarah would absolutely slaughter them.
Well, I would do the same thing, but that's the thing too, where
Oh, I know you would.
I want another female set of eyes because then, like, if I say, hey, Rachel, Sarah, did you kind of notice so and so being a little too Zeus like? And then they can kind of calm me down and say, hey, no, that wasn't a thing. You're over exaggerating. Is your period about to start?
Right. We can do those things for each other,
Then they can be the voice of reason for once.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing too, where I want this group because the thing is I can't call Stein 24/7 and say, babe, I'm dealing with this. Why are you crying? Why aren't you talking to Rachel about this? And that's where the thing is too, where it's like I wanted a place where I can say, girls, I need a girl day. And Stein's not like, I'm not a girl. First off, I have a penis. Second off, why would I want to get my nails done? But I need a girl's day. I need something. I need wine. Tell me I'm not delusional.
You're gonna make me anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna have days where I'm gonna.
Disgusting. That's why you get your nails done.
Exactly. And I think that's like the thing too, where it's like I need a place where I can go to Rachel and Sarah and be like, am I being stupid? Tell me I'm being stupid.
Okay.
Where Stein's like, yes, you're being stupid. Now settle it down. Don't tell me I'm stupid.
And only make it worse in the process. Yeah.
Exactly. Like he's like, you are being stupid. But I'm not stupid. I swear I'm not stupid.
Well, do you want me to tell the truth, or do you want me to tell you what you want to hear? I want the truth. Well, that was the truth.
You want the honest answer or the flippant one? Well, it doesn't matter. They're all the same.
That's why I wanted to have that group, because the thing is, I want girls to celebrate girls. Like, let's say down the road, Stein and I decide to have kids. Let's say him and I do, and like I'm scared about having this symptom, like, oh my god, I'm having this. Stein would flip off the handle and be like, call your doctor immediately, you're spotting. Oh my god, you're having a miscarriage, oh my god. Where it's like with the girls, it's more of like, well, what are your other symptoms? What's the other symptoms besides spotting? I just want that. And then like with hand fastings, men are indecisive anyway. And I think that's why I wanted that group, is because, Rachel's coming to me for advice on her hand fasting, which I'm not going to mention here because that's her thing. But she's coming to me for advice on female things that are not necessarily masculine. And I
mean, the
think that's why I
first
wanted
question
it.
you ask,
Do what? I'm
first
sorry.
question you ask is, I was gonna say, the first question you ask is, do you have a feel for human flesh? but joking aside, because I'm not just a shitlord. The problems that you're discussing is why I don't pack up. Being that I am a filthy fur fag, pardon my French, the there are lots of people coming to me like, Joe, you're wolf aligned. You'd be really cool. Come hang out with us. Be fuzzy. And it's like, okay. I was like, yeah, join our pack. It's gonna be cool. These sort of new age pseudo pagan enclaves people want to form, and I never join them. And the reason I never join them is because they become more about status, hierarchy, and
And we
usually
don't want
appealing
that there.
to usually appealing to the um, vanity of whoever instigated it or started it. Because they built
Mhm.
their peer group.
That's
That's
so
both.
sounds like heathens for oath and honor.
Oh, it was. And
It,
that's the thing too, where coming back to the original tribe, I told Stein, hey, I really do miss this and this about HOH, and I miss this, and that about the mead hall. And that's
Yeah.
where him and I came together and we realized we wanted a group. And then lovely Miss Rachel decided to say, I really wish I had more female involvement within the tribe. And I was like, hey, you know what? She's right. Because that's where I want somewhere where I can go and I can quote unquote cry to another female and she'll sit there and say, honey, you're not crazy. Whereas with Stein, honey, you're completely crazy.
well, a lot of
Yeah.
today's conversation has been about blood, which our blood doesn't matter, just blood in general. And the thing that sounds very positive is you guys want
Mhm.
to create a space where you can talk about your sacred blood in a healthy, meaningful way to share
As Stein
information.
leaves the room.
Yeah.
No, I'm starting dinner. It's getting late.
The thing is that in my area, in the Southwest and on the West Coast, especially as you get closer to California and or go inland towards Nevada, there are actually a lot of blood cults inspired by Anton LaVey and others. The thing is that not healthy blood cults. What they actually are is they're very scary cults of personality from small scale practitioners who have found a mechanism to convince young aspirants who don't know what they're into, who haven't read enough, to join them because they say, oh, well, yeah, blood magic can make you powerful, blood magic can make you wealthy, blood magic can make you attractive.
Well,
And then
it's
they offer
not necessarily the
the sex
blood
magic.
magic that I was going for because I don't even
But
practice
I
that.
mean, those
But
are
it's
those are still topics that women can and should be discussing in a sacred
Mhm.
space
right.
because that stuff is getting out there in ways that are incredibly destructive.
Exactly.
And so it's almost like we have a responsibility to teach and to, just have conversation about those types of things. And
Because,
when
like,
women come together,
mhm,
Freya taught Odin magic. I mean,
exactly.
we can expose men to these ideas in a healthy way.
And I think
That's
that's the thing, too, where piggybacking off of Rachel, I wanted a place, too, and I know she did, too, where we can talk about our yanis, our menstruations without the boys like, ew, because they do go squeamish when you talk about menstrual cycles. They
Yeah.
go do. Stein is one of them. I can talk to him about my like time of the month, and he's just like,
I mean,
first off, ew.
like if you need if you need a soothing voice and whatever, I'll be that one for you. But as you said, like I don't necessarily need to talk about it for a week straight, and you know I mean, I am still a man. I am, a big fan of of females and, of the female anatomy. I'm a big fan, but some parts, some parts I don't necessarily have to talk about, and many other men with me, and yeah, that is why I said, like, you're right. You should do that. You should make a splinter group, basically. Still Greyhorn Pagans aligned, but for just the ladies, just the women. Because I mean, I saw it too. When Rachel, when you brought it up, I was like, well, I mean, yeah, you're right. It's a bunch of dudes and some females sprinkled in here and there. I understand why you prefer not to talk about some things in the tribe, because it'll be like 9 men and maybe one female reacting to it.
Like me, because I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, you be that one female basically, or
Mhm.
Sarah, and yeah, that's why I said, you know what, do it, make it your thing. Go make that splinter group if that's
well,
where
and I,
you if that's where you feel comfortable, if you feel that that's what
Mhm.
needed also to bring in the female crowd. It could be a like the meat hall was for HOH. Like it was basically a group where like everything goes, kind of like the get a room 18 plus not safe for work group that we have. But through the meat hall, like many just came into HOH, and in their main group, in their main tribe.
Mhm.
And on that note, I think that's a great place to close out. Uh, Everyone, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. Because, hey, you know what? Want to do it again next Saturday too?
Sure. I mean, if I'm not busy,
Next Saturday is the 12th.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, should be good.
Rachel, when is your hand fasting again, dear?
On the 8th.
So
7th.
would you be able to join us, or are you gonna be on your honeymoon?
I'm not sure what we're going to be doing. We have a lot of work to do.
Well, there's a ladies group, so if you need to come vent to me, come
Yeah.
vent.
Yeah, I'll
Exactly.
stay in touch.
Now there is a ladies group.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I'm here for you, girly. You know I am.
Well,
I can't believe my girl's getting married.
I can really believe it.
Congratulations again.
We're lagging behind, honey.
I know.
Yeah, fine. You're next, bud.
Oh, dude, I didn't even expect to be last, but hey.
I'm a very thorough planner. Thank you very much. I want it perfect.
Oh, honey, I know. Trust me, I know. I have
the
all
fact
the.
that we're gonna have to have a hand fasting, a ceremony here, and then a ceremony over
God.
there. Oof, oof.
Honey, I still have all the Pinterest links. I still have all the like what is it, web shop again, where you like almost on a daily send me a couple dozen links. Etsy, yeah. Sty's your dog, honey.
Sorry, my dad came in here, so that's why I kind of said that.
Okay.
Etsy.
Yeah, Etsy. Like we have Etsy and we have SD. I still have all the links. Like, oh Jesus! Like yesterday, you spammed me so much that even my browser was like, I'm not gonna open it anymore.
It makes me feel better. I'll let East Side. There's people nuts.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the other thing too, where me and Rachel want to be able to talk about our hand fastings without the men. And I mean, it took me a minute to understand what she was talking about, but as she was asking me and Sarah for advice, I was like, oh, that makes sense now why she's asking me. I'm a female. That makes sense. Instead of me going to Stein, hey babe, do you like this for the hand fasting? Yeah, that's fine. Add it. But we
All
have
right,
so much
everybody.
already. So
All right. I've got to run now. Okay, so thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for hanging out.
One last thing, you wanna shill the GoFundMe real quick?
Yeah. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
I have it right here. It's the. In fact, I've starred that link, and I'm going to be putting it in. I'm going to edit the description to put this in there. But yeah, that's
I only
for.
mentioned because it's been 3 hours. People might have forgot.
Joey,
No.
I'll include that in the tribe too if you want me to.
Oh, we can
excellent.
do that.
Yeah, that would
We
be
can
great.
do that. Yeah.
Rachel, do you want to add that in the female group, even though it's you, Sarah, I, and one other female?
Well, it's
Yeah.
it's about his mother.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Who was the shield maiden who kicked off this discussion today?
Well,
Excellent.
Joey, my
Hey,
thoughts
there
are
you
with
go.
you, and if you ever need another female to talk to, I am here, okay?
And you can always come in the tribe and just talk about whatever. You're always welcome.
I mean, I can't. I actually don't invite. I don't even know where this thing is, but I appreciate the sentiment.
Well, I'll hear. You know what? I'm
We're-
going to. Honey, do you have the link to the tribe for Telegram?
Yeah.
Telegram. I'd have to get on Telegram.
Well, it's on Telegram
I
and
can put
mine.
that one in the description a little later when I go back to edit. And
Yeah.
like once I edit that, then I'll post the replay and all that good stuff too. So we're still. I mean, just because they didn't watch like as we did it, that they usually come like well after that. So these videos tend to do pretty well. But
And
again,
Rachel,
thank you all.
message me.
Thank you all for coming. It was a blast. I loved it.
Thank you for
Thanks to
hosting.
everyone who donated to the GoFundMe for Joe, because that's super appreciated. We deeply appreciate it. I know Joe appreciates it. It means the world to him right now, and it we love you for it. In the meantime, I just wanted to tell everyone, love you all. Take care of yourselves and each other. Always do what lights you up, and as always, shine on.